All right, let's go ahead and call the Senate to order. Sergeant Arms will please secure the chamber doors. Members, please take your seats. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Mr. President.
All right, Senators, this evening we are very, very thankful to have one of our own, one of our colleagues, the one and only Senator from the 6th District to provide our invocation this evening. Please rise for that invocation.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'd like for us to do something this evening as the Senate. I would like to look to our right and just say hello to our neighbor. Then I'd like to look to our left. There you go. Now let's not get carried away. Thank you. There you go. All right, we covered that real well. Thank you. So we went left and right all around. One thing we can say we can do, we can greet one another with goodness and kindness. And when we do that, at times, even when we're walking down the street and we can meet with somebody or talk to somebody and say hello or good morning, it might make a difference for their day. And I just pray that you think about that when you're maybe walking down the road early in the morning or late in the evening. And maybe there's somebody there just walking and maybe they're going through a little struggle. A kind word makes a difference. And I believe a kind word can make a difference in you today too. So if we can all bow just for a moment and pray. To the God of Abraham, of Isaac and Jacob, to the great I am, the Alpha and the Omega, the beginning and the end. God, we come to you because you are the great I am. You are the one that is the difference maker in our life. So we come to you, Father, and we humble ourselves before you. God, I pray for every person in this room. God, I pray that you'll bless them, that you'll keep them, that you'll put your arms around them and give them a love and a peace that they've never had before. I know, Father, there are some that aren't here today, that they're going through a little bit. I pray, God, that you'll just give them the love and comfort that they need. And I know maybe there's some here today that are going through something. May they understand more than anything, Father, that you love them. And you love them as long as they lived and as long as you've been here. So I pray we'll remember more than anything, Father, that we loved you, but you have always loved us no matter what. So I pray that you'll be with us this day. I pray that you'll give us the wisdom, the knowledge, the understanding that can only come from you. So bless our leaders, bless our president here this day. Bless our governor, bless our president, our vice president, bless Congress, bless Senate. God bless this country that we have, that we are so blessed to be in. Be with our families, be with our loved ones, be with our neighbors. But may we always remember that this is the day that the Lord has made. May we rejoice, and may we be glad in it. We love you. Thank you for loving us. And may we all say in grace and love, amen.
Shouldn't. Recognize the Minority Whip.
Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you to the Senator from District 6 for the great prayer. It asked it to be journalized. Thank you.
Without objection, most certainly. Thank you. Thank you to the Senator from District 6. It's an important message. Those who are not here with us and who are, everyone's got something. So it's good to give everyone grace. All right. Has everyone recorded their presence? If so, Senator from the 41st. All right, the clerk will take the call. With 46 members in the chamber and a quorum being present, the Senate of Maryland is again in session. No resolutions. All right, look at that. Busy morning. Any introductions? Any notes before we jump in? If not, so be considered the reading of the journal from the prior legislative day. We've got a message from the House. Calendar 15. Clerk, read the bills.
House Bill 200, Delegate Wilkins, Community Schools, Alterations, Budget and Taxation. House Bill
Majority Leader
230.
moves, so be considered the reading of the bills. They'll be referred to their appropriate standing committees. Calendar 16, clerk will read the bills.
House Bill 76, Delegate Lopez, Health Occupations Pharmacist Administration of Vaccines.
Majority Leader moves to be considered the reading of the bills. They will be referred to their appropriate standing committees. All right, let's go ahead and start because we make sure that we have a number of staff who have been waiting here. We've got third reading calendar number 58. Third reading calendar number 58. The clerk will read the first bill.
Senate Bill 360, the President Budget Bill, Fiscal Year 2025.
All right, Senate Bill 360 is on third reading for final passage. Any discussion? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote? Explain their vote. Chair recognizes the Minority Leader. Has 2 minutes to explain his vote.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. Explaining my vote. First and foremost, appreciate all the work that has been done from B&T Committee on this bill. Came in, and there's obviously challenges this year with respect to where we are. Number of revenue write-downs that have come down as well, too. But again, going to cast my vote in favor of the budget to commend the work that we've done. At the same time, the House might not be looking at the budget the same way we are this year. They're talking about tax increases. They're talking about a number of things that they want to do different. So in casting my vote, yes, I'm also casting my vote that we can stand firm and support the budget as we move forward. So thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Senator. Any further senators wish to explain their vote? If Chair recognizes the Chair of the Committee.
Just very quickly, Mr. President, I just want to thank everyone. Certainly the committee, the staff, my personal staff, everyone who's been engaged, DLS up and down, David Romans, and all of you. Appreciate those green votes up there. Appreciate the fact that we all can work together and get some good stuff done. So I'm very, very proud of the product. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Senator. Any further senators wish to explain their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. With 46 votes in the affirmative, Senate Bill 360, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Well done. Clerk, read the next bill.
Senate Bill 362, the President Budget Reconciliation Financing Act of 2024.
Senate Bill 362 is on third reading for final passage. Any discussion? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote? Explain their vote. If not, the clerk will take the call. With 43 votes in the affirmative, Senate Bill 362, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. And with that, the budget and the BRFA having gone through, I just want to say thank you to each member of this body, but especially our chair, vice chair, subcommittee chairs, members of the B&T committee. I know there was a lot of work. First year in many years, in the last 3 years, we had a historic amount of money. In prior years, it was tighter this year, and we were able to invest in our priorities without major needs for revenue increases, and are able to create a budget that Marylanders will be proud about. So with that, appreciate the work that's done. All right, while we're in third reading calendar, let's keep going through it. Let's go to third reading calendar number 43. Clerk will read the first bill.
Senate Bill 525, Senator Kelly, Labor and Employment, Equal Pay for Equal Work, Wage Range Transparency.
Senate Bill 525 is on third reading for final passage. Any discussion? If not, clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote? Explain their vote. If not, the clerk will take the call. With 38 votes in the affirmative, Senate Bill 525, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk will read the next bill.
Senate Bill 613, Senator Bidel, State Board of Long-Term Care Administrators, Requirements for Assisted Living Managers.
Senate Bill 613 is on third reading for final passage. Any discussion? If not, clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote? Explain their vote. If not, the clerk will take the call. With 46 votes in the affirmative, Senate Bill 613, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk will read the next bill.
Senate Bill 712, Senator Bailey, State-Owned Nursing Homes Deficiency Citations and Fines Reporting Requirements.
Senate Bill 712 is on third reading for final passage. Any discussion? If not, clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote, explain their vote. If not, the clerk will take the call. With 46 votes in the affirmative, Senate Bill 712 having received a constitutional majority is declared passed. Clerk will read the next bill.
Senate Bill 781, Senator James, Economic Development Regional Additive Manufacturing Partnership of Maryland alterations.
Senate Bill 781 is on third reading for final passage. Any discussion? If not, clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote, explain their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. With 46 votes in the affirmative, Senate Bill 781 having received a constitutional majority is declared passed. Clerk will read the next bill.
Senate Bill 799, Senator McKay, Health Occupations Limited License to Practice Dentistry Services for Adults.
Senate Bill 799 is on third reading for final passage. Any discussion? If not, clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote, explain their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. With 46 votes in the affirmative, Senate Bill 799 having received a constitutional majority is declared passed. Clerk will read the next bill.
Senate Bill 809, Senator Mounds, Dorchester County Applicants Polygraph Examination.
Senate Bill 809 is on third reading for final passage. Any discussion? If not, clerk. Oh. Okay. If there's no discussion, clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote, explain their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. With 46 votes in the affirmative, Senate Bill 809 having received a constitutional majority is declared passed. Clerk will read the next bill.
Senate Bill 875, Senator Kelly, Miriam Kelty Aging and Senior Social Connection Hub and Spoke Pilot Program.
Senate Bill 875 is on third reader for final passage. Any discussion? If not, clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote, explain their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. Oh, I'm sorry, if we could strike that.
No,
You sure?
next. Sorry,
Okay,
at the end of the calendar.
okay. With 46 votes in the affirmative, Senate Bill 875 having received a constitutional majority is declared passed. Senator from District 4?
Sorry, Mr. President.
No, my
I
fault.
thought we were at the end of the calendar. Mr. President, if I could, I'd like to change my vote on SB 525 from red to green, please.
525 red to green. Any objections? Without objection, so ordered. Minority Whip?
Thank you, Mr. President. I also would like to change my vote on Senate Bill 525 from red to green.
Red to green. Any objections? Do we have the, oh, we need the, we need the forms. Ah, well. All right. Yes,
Yeah.
Mr. Minority Leader.
Same thing, Mr. President. Just took a while to get settled in here, so we were so busy voting in finance to make sure we got all these votes out, so I'd like to change
Well, I
my
heard, I
vote.
was watching it in between, and there was a note that the finger had slipped, was
Yes,
the excuse
that's
being
what
made.
it was, Ron, but change vote red to green on Senate Bill 525.
525.
please.
All
Thank
right, any objections? Without objection, so ordered. Senator from the 29th.
Thank you, Mr. President. On Senate Bill 525, from red to green.
And we have the,
You'll have it in 1 minute.
okay, perfect. All right, any objections? Without objection, so ordered. All right, let's go to 44. 44, all right. Clerk will read the first bill.
Senate Bill 6, Senator Guile, Property Tax Credit for Dwelling House of Disabled Veterans alterations.
Senate Bill 6 is on third reading for final passage. Any discussion? If not, clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote? Explain their vote. If not, the clerk will take the call. With 46 votes in the affirmative, Senate Bill 6 having received a constitutional majority is declared passed. Clerk will read the next bill.
Senate Bill 18, Senator Augustine, Health Occupations Pharmacist, Administration of Vaccines. This is the emergency bill.
Senate Bill 18 is on third reading for final passage. Any discussion? If not, clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote? Explain their vote. If not, the clerk will take the call. With 36 votes in the affirmative, Senate Bill 18 having received a constitutional majority is declared passed. Clerk will read the next bill.
Senate Bill 244, Chair of the Finance Committee, Public Health Clean Indoor Air Act revisions.
Senate Bill 244 is on third reading for final passage. Any discussion? If not, clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote? Explain their vote. If not, the clerk will take the call. With 37 votes in the affirmative, Senate Bill 244, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk will read the next bill.
Senate Bill 472, the President, State Government Permits, License, and Certificates, Processing, Transparent Government Act of 2024.
Senate Bill 472 is on third reading for final passage. Any discussion? If not, clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote, explain their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. With 46 votes in the affirmative, Senate Bill 472, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk will read the next bill.
Senate Bill 474, the President, Certification of Public Convenience and Necessity, Related Approvals, Definition of Generating Station, Critical Infrastructure Streamlining Act of 2024.
Senate Bill 474 is on third reading for final passage. Any discussion? Oh, yes, Chair recognizes Senator from District 3.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. I would like to speak on this bill because it hits very close to home. I wish I could support this bill. I do support data centers, and I recognize that they will bring jobs and they will bring revenue to our state. But I have some concerns about this bill in that it hasn't sufficiently addressed some really significant challenges. Specifically, there's insufficient validation to support the financial and job creation aspirations, and a lack of measures that balance the greenhouse gas emissions from diesel generators. The tax revenue projections were developed utilizing a model that historically inflates revenue projections. In addition, the costs to local government for infrastructure for sewer and water haven't been calculated at all. The costs for the transmission upgrades to our ratepayers are going to be borne by them. There are no commitments for the number of hires, the number of union jobs, or a requirement for prevailing wage. The number of jobs will actually decrease by 87% after construction, and 96% for just those jobs relevant to data centers. It's estimated that the cost to construct one data center is between $420 and $770 million. Equipment exemptions represent between 45 and 65% of initial expenses. So for a $770 million project, if you consider the 6% sales tax, the exemption could save a single project more than $30 million when the result is 1,700 jobs. Now, an even more important issue, greenhouse gas emissions. There is no limit on this bill for the number of diesel generators. For example, the Quantum Loophole campus in Frederick could have well over 2,000 at build-out. Each facility will generate 3,802 tons of CO2 per year, assuming about 168 generators per facility. So a campus with 4 sites, which is the initial approval, will generate 15,208 tons a year. At build-out, 13 facilities, 50,000 tons a year. And this does not include other particulate matters such as carbon monoxide, nitrogen oxide, hydrocarbons, and volatile organic compounds, all of which can worsen respiratory ailments, including asthma, allergies, bronchitis, and lung functions, as well as increased risks of heart problems, premature deaths, and lung cancer. In conclusion, it's important that we validate these revenue projections and estimate guarantees for employment projections. Finally, we must insert offsets to mitigate pollution restraints that are consistent with our state emission green energy goals. And for those reasons, I'm sorry I can't support this bill. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator. On the bill, Chair recognizes Senator from District 4.
Thank you, Mr. President. I stand and rise in support of this. This actually is going in my district in Frederick County. And I want to assure the body that the comments made here, this is a continual pattern. And I guess I better be careful how I word this, but there's a lot of misinformation being spread. What I will tell you is that these generators, that the greenhouse gas numbers that you just heard, are actually wholly inaccurate. The generators do not run these systems. They are only there as a backup, which is a required backup, just like our hospitals, just like our emergency communication centers, just like our military installations have to have generator backups because they can't afford to go down. Could you imagine if your data center goes down because we have no other resource available other than diesel backup generators to immediately kick on, that your cell phone service would go down and you would have no communications? Can we imagine that without all the hard lines we have at our homes now? That would be a very chaotic situation because of how we've moved forward in our society. So these diesel generators are only tested for 1 hour a month. 1 hour. They're kicked on for an hour and they're turned off. So the numbers that you just heard were wholly inaccurate. And I would say that with that, also, this is bringing the $770 million per data center number that was brought forward. Again, it's just not the case. It's about $200 million per data center. $200 million. They're coming up from Northern Virginia. They'll be happy to take it back down to Northern Virginia, but this affects Maryland jobs, this affects Maryland's economy, and this infuses our economy with monies to help stabilize and provide services to our community that are important. This is a critical function that we need to be able to have. And we have an opportunity here with large Fortune 5, not Fortune 500, Fortune 5 companies looking to come into Maryland and infuse our system. So with that, with jobs and the job creation that this is going to be, with construction and long term, I would urge your green vote. Thank you, Mr. President.
All right, on the bill, any further discussion? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote, explain their vote? If not,
Mr. President.
oh yes, Chair recognizes Senator from District 30 has 2 minutes to explain her vote.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'll be brief, and I appreciate the arguments and the vetting particularly the committee did on this not so simple issue. I don't often speak about my family on the floor, but I'm the very proud granddaughter of an IBEW member. He actually installed the lights at Veterans Stadium in Philadelphia. And when I was recently visiting one of IBEW's training facilities, I thought to myself, he wouldn't have that job today. He'd probably be working at a data center. So I appreciate the job creation that this bill can represent. I also know that we've had a lot of discussions, particularly this year, about tough energy issues. And this isn't necessarily an energy bill, it's more of an economic development bill. I appreciate that. But to ignore the fact that we, I think, have to have some broader and more strategic conversations about puts and takes into the system, about land use, about the impacts on our environment. I look forward to those conversations ahead, but at the moment, I'm a reluctant red vote, but I look forward to those conversations in the years ahead. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Senator. Any further senators wish to explain their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. With 43, all right. We know what chamber we're in, all right? We know, all right. 43 votes in the affirmative. Senate Bill 474, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. All right. It's all fun and games, okay. All right. Clerk will read the next bill.
Senate Bill 475, the President, Center for Firearm Violence Prevention, establish.
Senate Bill 475 is on third reading for final passage. Any discussion? If not, recognizing the minority whip on the bill.
Thank you, Mr. President. I just wanted to speak for a moment about this bill and talk about this issue briefly. The need to evaluate and look at violence, how we prevent violence, what we do when violence happens and causes of violence is certainly always something that government should be involved in. I really question this bill as something that will do much of anything that can't already be done. This is seeking to establish a Center for Firearm Violence Prevention at a cost of $10 million a year on the fiscal note. Now, it was interesting, the fiscal note's $10 million. The governor put in a supplemental budget for $6 million. We're missing $4 million for this year, so I don't know exactly if that maybe is just the amount of time left in the fiscal year. I don't know. But so the way it was told, it's going to be $10 million a year and be housed under the health department. We spend an astronomical sum of money in our health department. I have a hard time believing this could not be something that was done generally with most of the existing resources. Perhaps some federal funding and other things could be available, and I understand they'll be seeking that. But really the larger issue is when we had this hearing, let's start at the start of session. One of the number one issues that our state has been facing, and our body has tried to tackle it some. I'm actually pleased with some of the progress we've made this session, but crime, out of control crime, particularly violent crime, crime with the use of illegal guns by criminals committing crimes is out of control. Somehow we keep coming back to the whole gun violence moniker. It's bad and violent people, generally, committing crimes with guns, quite often with guns obtained illegally, trafficked illegally. This is a center for, so the governor comes out and rolls out a package about crime, and the three bills, one deals with how we can do a better job of recruiting police officers, which I'm not against. Another one is about dealing with helping victims more, which again, of course, we support. And then this bill. Now he's come around a little more and he started to talk a lot more about consequences for crime, but I was underwhelmed by the crime package, which includes basically something to study the root causes of gun violence. Even calling it firearm violence implies that it's indiscriminate and not a result of choices that people make. At the hearing, I asked a question to one of the panelists. I said, what will this commission do? What will this center do to evaluate and look at how people make the choices they make and what we're going to do about their individual choices they've made to be involved in violence? And the answer was very direct, and I appreciate the honesty. This is not going to get into that. This is going to talk about looking at infected communities and what all the communities, how communities are impacted by violence and how that leads to more violence. And look, I'm not saying that some of that's not true, but the need for a Center for Firearm Violence Prevention that basically is set up to just keep talking about how guns are bad and people who own firearms are bad. I don't think we need that. I don't think that's going to be helpful. I would much rather see something focused on the individual choices people make, and I would much rather see us with a much more relentless focus on ensuring that people who commit violent acts in communities are dealt with and put where they belong for a while until they can be reformed. And so, Mr. President, to me it just seems like it's an obfuscation. It's trying to say, look over here, away from some of the things that are really causing the problem. This Center for Firearm Violence is not going to look at the breakdown of the family. It's not going to look at the choices people make. It's not going to look at failing school systems that let children down in particular communities where violence is rampant. I'm sure that the intentions are good behind it, and I'm sure that the people who work in this will mean well, but I don't believe this will make any appreciable difference in the overall amount of firearm violence that we see in our communities. And I also don't think at a cost of $10 million a year, I imagine we could find a better use for that funding. So my vote will be no on this, Mr. President, not because I don't support studying causes of violence, but I think the whole way it's being set up is just more of the same kind of way of looking at issues, not the heart of the issue. And so I will be voting red on the bill.
All right. Any further discussion? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote? Explain their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. With 35 votes in the affirmative, Senate Bill 475, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk will read the next bill.
Senate Bill 541, Senator Guile, Maryland Online Data Privacy Act of 2024.
Senate Bill 541 is on third reading for final passage. Any discussion? If not, clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote? Explain their vote. If not, the clerk will take the call. With 46 votes in the affirmative, Senate Bill 541 have received a constitutional majority is declared passed. Clerk will read the next bill.
Senate Bill 556, Senator Salling, Procurement Construction Contingency Fund.
Senate Bill 556 is on third reading for final passage. Any discussion? If not, clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote? Explain their vote. If not, the clerk take the call. With 46 votes in the affirmative, Senate Bill 556 having received a constitutional majority is declared passed.
Mr. President,
Yes, Senator from District 6.
could I change my vote from a yea to a nay on Senate Bill 244, please?
244, we have it, Madam Secretary? All right.
Yes,
Any
sir.
objections? Without objection, so ordered. Senator from District 38.
Thank you, Mr. President. Senate Bill 525, nay to yay.
All right. Any objections? Without objection, so ordered. All right. Let's go to number 40, calendar 45. Clerk will read the first bill.
Senate Bill 567, Senator Muse, Public Institutions of Higher Education, Student Withdrawal Policy, Reimbursement of Tuition and Fees, Cameron Cardin Act of 2024.
All good. All right. Senate Bill 567 is on third reading for final passage. Any discussion? If not, clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote? Explain their vote. If not, the clerk will take the call. Did he miss? Let's strike the vote. Let's just. Let's try one more time. That was spring training. All right. 567.
Mr.
Ready?
President,
Clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote? Explain their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. With 46 votes in the affirmative, Senate Bill 567, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Goodness, it's one of those nights, huh? All right. Irish must be Irish caucus night, huh? That's the all right. Clerk will read the next bill.
Senate Bill 571, Senator Kramer, Consumer Protection, Online Products and Services, Data of Children, Maryland Kids Code.
Senate Bill 571 is on third reading for final passage. Any discussion? If not, clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote? Explain their vote. If not, the clerk will take the call. With 46 votes in the affirmative, Senate Bill 571 have received a constitutional majority is declared passed. Clerk will read the next bill.
Senate Bill 604, Senator Quarterman, Judges Retirement System, Special Death Benefit.
Senate Bill 604 is on third reading for final passage. Any discussion? If not, clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote? Explain their vote. If not, the clerk will take the call. With 46 votes in the affirmative, Senate Bill 604, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk will read the next bill.
Senate Bill 654, Senator A. Washington, Prince George's County Student Support Specialist Networks and Success Action Plans, Student Supports and Success Act.
Senate Bill 654 is on third reading for final passage. Any discussion? If not, clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote? Explain their vote. If not, the clerk will take the call. With 46 votes in the affirmative, Senate Bill 654, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk will read the next bill.
Senate Bill 657, Anne Arundel County Senators, Anne Arundel County Student Loan Assistance Repayment Program for Educators established.
Senate Bill 657 is on third reading for final passage. Any discussion? If not, clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote? Explain their vote. If not, the clerk will take the call. With 46 votes in the affirmative, Senate Bill 657, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk will read the next bill.
Senate Bill 659, Senator Augustine, Prince George's Gateway Development Authority modifications.
Senate Bill 659 is on third reading for final passage. Any discussion? If not, clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote, explain their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. With 46 votes in the affirmative, Senate Bill 659 having received a constitutional majority is declared passed. Clerk, read the next bill.
Senate Bill 667, Senator Charles, State Procurement, Maryland State Board of Contract Appeals, Attorney's Fees.
Senate Bill 667 is on third reading for final passage. Any discussion? If not, clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote, explain their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. With 46 votes in the affirmative, Senate Bill 667, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. On to calendar 46. Clerk will read the first bill.
Senate Bill 704, Senator Hayes, Appraisals Gap from Historic Redlining Financial Assistance Program Alterations.
Senate Bill 704 is on third reading for final passage. Any discussion? If not, clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote, explain their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. With 46 votes in the affirmative, Senate Bill 704, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Can somebody hand that man a paperclip? Is it? No, it's just kidding, just kidding. All right, the clerk, read the next bill.
Senate Bill 707, Senator Jackson, Armed Forces Support of Military Families and Addition of Space Force.
Senate Bill 707 is on third reading for final passage. Any discussion? If not, clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote, explain their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. With 46 votes in the affirmative, Senate Bill 707 having received a constitutional majority is declared passed. Clerk will read the next bill.
Senate Bill 747, Senator Gazone, Local Government Annual Audit Reporting Requirements Alterations.
Senate Bill 747 is on third reading for final passage. Any discussion? If not, clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote, explain their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. With 46 votes in the affirmative, Senate Bill 747 having received a constitutional majority is declared passed. Clerk, read the next bill.
Senate Bill 763, Senator Carrozza, Somerset County Sale of Property, Revels Neck Road.
Senate Bill 763 is on third reading for final passage. Any discussion? If not, clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote, explain their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. With 46 votes in the affirmative, Senate Bill 763, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk will read the next bill.
Senate Bill 769, Frederick County Senators, Frederick County Property Tax Credit for Property Located in Historic District, Alterations.
Senate Bill 769 is on third reading for final passage. Any discussion? If not, clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote, explain their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. With 46 votes in the affirmative, Senate Bill 769, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk, read the next bill.
Senate Bill 777, the President, State Treasurer, and Comptroller Membership Responsibilities.
Senate Bill 777 is on third reading for final passage. Any discussion? If not, clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote, explain their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. With 45 votes in the affirmative, Senate Bill 777, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk, read the next bill.
Senate Bill 797,
What?
Senator Hester, Education Access to Attorneys, Advocates, and Consultants Special Education Program Fund established.
Senate Bill 797 is on third reading. Recognizing the chair of the committee.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'd like to special order this, ideally to the second session if we're having one tomorrow.
Looks like we will, so
Did you say the
But let's-
appropriate time tomorrow?
is it for an amendment?
Yes.
We may want to move it back now and then special order it,
Oh,
if that,
okay.
If that would
Okay,
work.
Okay, so move to reconsider the vote in which it was moved to third reader?
any objections to the senator's motion? Without objection, the motion carries. Senators now move to special order to the appropriate
Appropriate time
time tomorrow. We'll say the session and we'll see where we are if we have it available. All right, any objections? Without objection, so ordered. All right, that does it for that one. Let's go to 47. Clerk will read the first bill.
Senate Bill 800, the President, Maryland Uniform Disposition of Abandoned Property Act, Maryland 529 Program Exemption.
Senate Bill 800 is on third reading for final passage. Any discussion? If not, clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote, explain their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. With 46 votes in the affirmative, Senate Bill 800 having received a constitutional majority is declared passed. Clerk, read the next bill.
Senate Bill 806, Senator Zucker, Business Regulation Licensed Home Improvement Contractors Liability Insurance.
Senate Bill 806 is on third reading for final passage. Any discussion? If not, clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote, explain their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. 46 votes in the affirmative. Senate Bill 806, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk, read the next bill.
Senate Bill 807, Senator Carrozza, Somerset County Fire, Rescue, and Emergency Medical Services.
Senate Bill 807 is on third reading for final passage. Any discussion? If not, clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote, explain their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. With 46 votes in the affirmative, Senate Bill 807, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk, read the next bill.
Senate Bill 822, Senator Kramer, Income Tax Subtraction Modification, State Law Enforcement Officers.
Senate Bill 822 is on third reading for final passage. Any discussion? If not, clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote, explain their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. With 46 votes in the affirmative, Senate Bill 822, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk will read the next bill.
Senate Bill 829, Senator Carrozza, Somerset County Fire Companies Appropriations.
Senate Bill 829 is on third reading for final passage. Any discussion? If not, clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote, explain their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. With 46 votes in the affirmative, Senate Bill 829, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk will read the next bill.
Senate Bill 850, Senator Quarterman, State Personnel, Line of Duty, Death, and Funeral Benefits.
Senate Bill 850 is on third reading for final passage. Any discussion? If not, clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote, explain their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. With 46 votes in the affirmative, Senate Bill 850, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk will read the next bill.
Senate Bill 852, Washington County Senators, Washington County Board of Education Members Residency Requirement.
Senate Bill 852 is on third reading for final passage. Any discussion? If not, clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote, explain their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. With 46 votes in the affirmative, Senate Bill 852, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Calendar 49. Clerk will read the first bill.
Senate Bill 15, Senator West, Cooperative Housing Corporations Dispute Settlement.
Senate Bill 15 is on third reading for final passage. Any discussion? If not, clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote, explain their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. With 46 votes in the affirmative, Senate Bill 15, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk will read the next bill.
Senate Bill 126, Senator Augustine, Transportation WMATA Operating Assistance Alteration Maryland Metro Funding Act of 2024.
Senate Bill 126 is on third reading for final passage. Any discussion? If not, clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote, explain their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. With 34 votes in the affirmative, Senate Bill 126, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk will read the next bill.
Senate Bill 182, Senator Sidnor, Criminal Procedure, Facial Recognition Technology Requirements, Procedures, and Prohibitions.
Senate Bill 182 is on third reading for final passage. Any discussion? If not, clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President,
Has everyone recorded their vote and wish to change their vote, explain their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. With 46 votes in the affirmative, Senate Bill 182, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk will read the next bill.
Senate Bill 315, Senator Kelly, Vehicle Laws, Bike Lanes and Shoulders Yielding Right-of-Way, Sarah Dubinick Langenkamp Memorial Act.
Senate Bill 315 is on third reading for final passage. Any discussion? If not, clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote, explain their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. With 46 votes in the affirmative, Senate Bill 315, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk will read the next bill.
Senate Bill 344, Senator Waldstreicher, Criminal and Civil Trespass Professional Land Surveyors Exception.
Senate Bill 344 is on third reading for final passage. Any discussion? If not, clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote, explain their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. With 46 votes in the affirmative, Senate Bill 344, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk will read the next bill.
Senate Bill 370, Senator Hedelman, Community Schools Rental Assistance for Community School Families Program Fund Establishment.
Senate Bill 370 is on third reading for final passage. Any discussion? If not, clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote? Explain their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. With 37 votes in the affirmative, Senate Bill 370, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk, read the next bill.
Senate Bill 450, Senator Brooks, Baltimore County Speed Monitoring Systems Residential District for mailing of citations.
Senate Bill 450 is on third reading for final passage. Any discussion? If not, clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote? Explain their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. With 37 votes in the affirmative, Senate Bill 450, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk will read the next bill.
Senate Bill 504, Senator McKay, Motor Vehicles, Recreational Vehicle Dealer Agreements.
Senate Bill 504 is on third reading for final passage. Any discussion? If not, clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote? Explain their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. With 46 votes in the affirmative, Senate Bill 504, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Let's go to 50. Clerk will read the first bill.
Senate Bill 549, Senator Sidnor, Criminal Procedure, Forensics, Genetic, Genealogy, DNA Analysis, and Search Applicability for Deceased and Missing Individuals.
Senate Bill 549 is on third reading for final passage. Any discussion? If not, clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote? Explain their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. With 46 votes in the affirmative, Senate Bill 549, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk will read the next bill.
Senate Bill 562, Frederick County Senators, Sheriff of Frederick County Salary Work Group.
Senate Bill 562 is on third reading for final passage. Any discussion? If not, clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote? Explain their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. With 46 votes in the affirmative, Senate Bill 562, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk will read the next bill.
Senate Bill 608, Senator Folden, Public Safety, Police Accountability, Time Limit for Filing Administrative Charges.
Senate Bill 608 is on third reading for final passage. Any discussion? If not, clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote? Explain their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. With 46 votes in the affirmative, Senate Bill 608, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk will read the next bill.
Senate Bill 683, Senator Hester, Tree Expert Licenses, Application Renewal Fee, Alterations, and Insurance Requirements.
Senate Bill 683 is on third reading for final passage. Any discussion? If not, clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote? Explain their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. With 36 votes in the affirmative, Senate Bill 683, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk, read the next bill.
Senate Bill 688, Senator Smith, Prince George's County, Judgeships, Circuit Courts.
Senate Bill 688 is on third reading for final passage. Any discussion? If not, clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote? Explain their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. With 46 votes in the affirmative, Senate Bill 688, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk will read the next bill.
Senate Bill 730, Senator Carter, Motor Vehicles, Motorcycles, Passenger Restrictions.
Senate Bill 730 is on third reading for final passage. Any discussion? If not, clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote? Explain their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. With 45 votes in the affirmative, Senate Bill 730, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk will read the next bill.
Senate Bill 738, Senator King, Freedom to Read Act. This is an emergency bill.
Senate Bill 738 is on third reading for final passage. Senators, this is an emergency bill. Any discussion? Oh, yes, Chair recognizes the Minority Whip.
Thank you,
Joe.
Mr. President. Just to remind the body, just to give a quick commentary on this bill, we had an extensive debate and discussion on it on some amendments on second reading, and the bill there were some changes made that I think there was some good separation in the bill. But I just want to make it clear, I'm going to be voting no because I don't believe that school libraries and public libraries necessarily should have all the same standards for what's available. And in the bill, I think it's targeted. I have no problem with protecting public libraries extensively, and I, of course, want to protect school libraries, but I think the bill goes too far in not allowing for enough ability for, number one, local school systems to manage their own personnel, and number two, I don't believe I don't like the level of where the bill is trying to control what local school systems do as far as the standards they have for what's in their public libraries, what's in their school libraries. I think it's, in some ways, I think what's in the bill about school libraries is in response to some sensationalization of things that have happened, and my vote will be no. I want to make it clear that I support a robust library system, and in a public library, I support there being a wide variety of things available, even things that maybe someone like myself wouldn't agree with, or you may not agree with, sitting here, going different directions. I think in school libraries, it's very important, though, that what's available, there should be a broadly acceptable categories of materials, and I think there ought to be a lot of latitude for somebody to be able to complain and have something removed, at least temporarily, to be examined. And this bill doesn't allow you to file a complaint and then have that document, that book removed to be examined by a review committee. The bill does have a review committee in it, which is good, but it does not really allow for you to remove something on the front end and have some time to look at it. And sometimes things are getting into our school libraries that are not appropriate. So, Mr. President, that's why my vote will be red. I do appreciate the work that we did on the bill, I think there's some good amendments to the bill, but I still believe it goes too far and restricts local school systems too much in what they want to do. So that's why my vote will be red.
All right, thank you, Senator. On the bill, any further discussion? Chair recognizes Senator from the 43rd District.
Thank you so much. Thank you, everyone. I'm voting yes for this bill precisely because it is what it says. It's the freedom to read. And I think about one of the most important things that my father ever said to me when I asked him a question and his opinion. He said, "Why don't you go read and decide for yourself?" That's what this bill is about. Allowing our students to read, allowing them to decide for themselves, and also it gives our locals an opportunity to be partners in deciding their standards. We're setting no prohibitions, so I will be voting yes for this bill. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator. That's good advice. All right, on the bill, any further discussion? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President?
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote? Explain their vote. If not, the clerk will take the call. With 36 votes in the affirmative, Senate Bill 738, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk, read the next bill.
Senate Bill 1038, Anne Arundel County Senators, Anne Arundel County Human Relations Commission subpoena enforcement.
Senate Bill 1038 is on third reading for final passage. Any
Mr.
discussion?
President.
Yes.
Thank you. I wanted to make a motion to move this back to second reader for purposes of an
Senators
amendment.
move to reconsider the vote by which it passed second reader. Any objections? Without objection, the motion carries. Senator has an amendment. The pages will collect and distribute the senator's amendment. Senator may explain the amendment.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. I've worked with the Anne Arundel County delegation and the members of the committee. We consider this to be a friendly amendment. What it does is it gives this commission the same tools that the MCCR, the Maryland Commission on Civil Rights, has, and several other like commissions for their respective counties, the powers to enforce investigations and investigatory and discriminatory decisions. I'd move the amendment.
All right, the senator moves the amendment. Any objections to the amendment? Any objections? Without objection, the amendment is adopted. Are there any further amendments to the bill or its title? Seeing none, Senate Bill 1038 is hereby ordered printed for third reading. I keep taking folders and it doesn't look like it's going anywhere. All right, calendar 52. Clerk, read the first bill.
Senate Bill 156, Senator Guzzoni, Port of Baltimore renaming.
Senate Bill 156 is on third reading for final passage. Any discussion? If not, clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President?
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote? Explain their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. With 44 votes in the affirmative, Senate Bill 156, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk will read the next bill.
Senate Bill 216, Chair, Finance Committee, Workers' Compensation, Failure to Insure Penalties.
Senate Bill 216 is on third reading for final passage. Any discussion? If not, clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote? Explain their vote. If not, the clerk will take the call. With 44 votes in the affirmative, Senate Bill 216 having received a constitutional majority is declared passed. Clerk will read the next bill.
Senate Bill 234, Chair, Finance Committee, Unemployment Insurance, Work Search Requirement Exemption for Federal Civilian Employees during Federal Government Shutdown.
Senate Bill 234 is on third reading for final passage. Any discussion? If not, clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote? Explain their vote. If not, the clerk will take the call. With 34 votes in the affirmative, Senate Bill 234 having received a constitutional majority is declared passed. Clerk will read the next bill.
Senate Bill 332, Senator Lewis Young, Hospitals and Urgent Care Centers, Sepsis Protocol, Laughlin's Law.
Senate Bill 332 is on third reading for final passage. Any discussion? If not, clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote? Explain their vote. If not, the clerk will take the call. With 44 votes in the affirmative, Senate Bill 332 having received a constitutional majority is declared passed. Clerk will read the next bill.
Senate Bill 395, Senator Augustine, Higher Ed, Credit Eligibility and Transfer of Credits, English as a Second Language Courses, Credit for All Language Learning Call Act.
Senate Bill 395 is on third reading for final passage. Any discussion? If not, clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote? Explain their vote. If not, the clerk will take the call. With 45 votes in the affirmative, Senate Bill 395 having received a constitutional majority is declared passed. Clerk will read the next bill.
Senate Bill 400, Senator West, Corporations and Association Definition, Emergencies and Outstanding Stock Revisions.
Senate Bill 400 is on third reading for final passage. Any discussion? If not, clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote? Explain their vote. If not, the clerk will take the call. With 45 votes in the affirmative, Senate Bill 400 having received a constitutional majority is declared passed. Clerk will read the next bill.
Senate Bill 439, Senator Alfred, Family Law Victims of Domestic Violence Program Certification and Grant Fund.
Senate Bill 439 is on third reading for final passage. Any discussion? If not, clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote? Explain their vote. If not, the clerk will take the call. With 45 votes in the affirmative, Senate Bill 439 having received a constitutional majority is declared passed. Clerk will read the next bill.
Senate Bill 446, Senator Muse, Local Government, Condominium and Homeowners Associations Repair and Rehabilitation Funds.
Senate Bill 446 is on third reading for final passage. Any discussion? If not, clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote? Explain their vote. If not, the clerk will take the call. With 45 votes in the affirmative, Senate Bill 446 having received a constitutional majority is declared passed. Onwards to 53. Clerk will read the first bill.
Senate Bill 448, Senator Muse, Study on African American Civil War Soldiers in Maryland.
Senate Bill 448 is on third reading for final passage. Any discussion? If not, clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote? Explain their vote. If not, the clerk will take the call. With 45 votes in the affirmative, Senate Bill 448 having received a constitutional majority is declared passed. Clerk will read the next bill.
Senate Bill 469, Senator McCray, Maryland Cannabis Administration Cannabis Licensing Protest of Renewal.
Senate Bill 469 is on third reading for final passage. Any discussion? If not, clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote? Explain their vote. If not, the clerk will take the call. With 44 votes in the affirmative, Senate Bill 469 having received a constitutional majority is declared passed. Clerk will read the next bill.
Senate Bill 476, the President, Workmen's Compensation, Occupational Disease Presumptions, First Responders, Caring for Public Employees in the Safety Professions, CAPES Act.
Senate Bill 476 is on third reading for final passage. Any discussion? If not, clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote? Explain their vote. If not, the clerk will take the call. With 45 votes in the affirmative, Senate Bill 476 having received a constitutional majority is declared passed. Clerk will read the next bill.
Senate Bill 478, the President, Families Serve Act of 2024.
Senate Bill 478 is on third reading for final passage. Any discussion? If not, clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President,
Has everyone everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote, explain their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. With 45 votes in the affirmative, Senate Bill 478, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk will read the next bill.
Senate Bill 518, Senator A. Washington, Task Force on Property Appraisal and Valuation Equity Alterations.
Senate Bill 518 is on third reading for final passage. Any discussion? If not, clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote, explain their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. With 45 votes in the affirmative, Senate Bill 518, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk will read the next bill.
Senate Bill 557, Senator Augustine, Election Law, Polling Place Procedures, Individuals Assisting a Voter.
Senate Bill 557 is on third reading for final passage. Chair recognizes the senator from the 20th District.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. President. I really still don't understand the reason for this bill. Could I ask a four-leader question on this bill?
Will the floor yield?
Absolutely.
Senator may proceed.
Yeah, so thank you. So what is the purpose for this bill for voters? Can I get assistance in the polling place?
So voters are able to get assistance from election judges, first of all, and but there is an additional provision that would allow for a third party, an individual, to, if the voter chooses, to bring that third party person in with them into the actual physical balloting location. They can press the button for them. They're like actually able to go right in there. The issue that has occurred is, in essence, where an individual will take not just one person, but it's very clear that they're voting multiple times by bringing a group of people and then physically going in with each of those individuals, in essence, subverting the law to a certain degree. And then the election judges, because there was no provision in the law that suggested they could stop that, felt like they could not do anything about it.
So I don't understand. Thank you for that explanation. I don't understand. So what's wrong with, say, we have a lot of immigrants. Well, no, we do have a lot of immigrants in Maryland. Folks who are new citizens, naturalized, who don't really know the language, not fluent in the language, whether it's Spanish or Mandarin speakers or you name it. A lot of folks in Maryland, especially DMV, from African countries. And if you don't have an election worker who can translate for that individual, I wonder why we can't have someone who is fluent in that language going with as many people as they want and help them to understand the electoral process and how to vote.
I can understand what you're saying. The ballots are in multiple languages, and that in the instances that I've observed, it was not what you've talked about. The ballots in the language of the folks who were there. In fact, the folks are just being, in essence, kind of sequestered and dragged into the polls in the case that was observed.
So people being dragged into the polls, you said, to vote?
Yep.
Really? Okay, didn't know that. So do you know that a lot of folks, even though they might speak a language, can't really read the language, with illiteracy? I mean, so if someone cannot read, so you mentioned that there are multiple languages available to individuals in a polling location.
Yes.
Are you aware that a lot of folks, even English speakers, cannot read? And so if someone need help in reading, how it seems like they are being disenfranchised.
The ballot marking device has an audio function to help with that.
Okay. Okay. So, well, yeah, I just kind of like, as an immigrant myself, and understand a lot of the obstacles to life in America, really, not understand this place, and becoming a new citizen is just trying to get help and doing things. This is, to me, unduly burdensome on so many new Americans who are having children here, and it's really producing obstacles for them, for us, to function in the society. I don't think we should be doing this as a body. So I just don't really think this is a good piece of legislation. Thank you, Mr. President.
All right. All right. On the bill, any further discussion? Chair recognizes the senator from the 22nd District.
Thank you, Mr. President. Just a question for the floor leader.
The floor to yield. Senator may proceed.
Is it correct that this is only for people who are, well, let me just ask a question. Is it just for people who are being paid to do this, or paid,
No, it's not
paid
for
work?
that, but it's for those who are unrelated. So if you are related, you can bring anyone in who you're related to, family members, stuff like that. This is really specifically for those who are unrelated, who are just bringing people in, one after the other. And it is for 3 at a particular polling location. Obviously, it'll allow the election judge just to be observant of that, if that were the case.
Got it. Thank you.
All right. On the bill, any further discussion? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President?
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote? Explain their vote. If not, the clerk will take the call. With 43 votes in the affirmative, Senate Bill 557 having received a constitutional majority is declared passed. Clerk, read the next bill.
Senate Bill 595, Senator Hershey, Health Benefits Plans, Calculation of Cost Sharing, Contribution Requirements, Prohibitions.
Senate Bill 595 is on third reading for final passage. Any discussion? If not, clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President?
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote? Explain their vote. If not, the clerk will take the call. With 45 votes in the affirmative, Senate Bill 595 having received a constitutional majority is declared passed. Clerk, read the next bill.
Senate Bill 623, Senator Carter, Prison Education Delivery Reform Commission.
Senate Bill 623 is on third reading for final passage. Any discussion? If not, clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President?
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote? Explain their vote. If not, the clerk will take the call. With 45 votes in the affirmative, Senate Bill 623 having received a constitutional majority is declared passed. Is that the last for that calendar? It appears so.
Speaker.
Yes, recognizing the,
Mr. President.
Whoa,
Mr.
wrong day.
President.
Yeah, yes, from 22nd District, yes.
Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you, Mr. President, again. Mr. President, on SB 469, I would like to be recorded in the green. Thank you.
469 in the green. Any objections? Without objection, so ordered. All right, let's check with Senator from the 25th.
Thank you, Mr. President. For SB 7.
Oh, sorry. Is that right? 777?
777.
The jackpot.
Yes,
in
sir.
In the green?
In the green.
In the green. All right. Any objections? Without objection, so ordered. Senator from District 9.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'd like to be in the green on Senate Bill 332.
332 in the green. Any objections? Without objection, so ordered. All right. Calendar 54. Clerk, read the first bill.
Senate
Loud and
Bill
through.
652, Senator McCray, Department of Juvenile Services Report on Shootings, Department of Juvenile Services Transparency Act of 2024.
Senate Bill 652 is on third reading for final passage. Any discussion? If not, clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President?
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote? Explain their vote. If not, the clerk will take the call. With 45 votes in the affirmative, Senate Bill 652 having received the constitutional majority is declared passed. Clerk will read the next bill.
Senate Bill 666, Senator Charles, Maryland Commission on Civil Rights, Monetary Relief.
Senate Bill 666 is on third reading for final passage. Any discussion? If not, clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President?
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote? Explain their vote. If not, the clerk will take the call. With 45 votes in the affirmative, Senate Bill 666 having received a constitutional majority is declared passed. Clerk will read the next bill.
Senate Bill 742, Anne Arundel County Senators, Anne Arundel County Alcoholic Beverages Fees for Class C per diem licenses.
Senate Bill 742 is on third reading for final passage. Any discussion? If not, clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President?
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote? Explain their vote. If not, the clerk will take the call. With 44 votes in the affirmative, Senate Bill 742 having received a constitutional majority is declared passed. Clerk will read the next bill.
Senate Bill 760, Senator Kramer, Consumer Protection Retail Sale of Gift Cards Scams Prevention Act of 2024.
Senate Bill 760 is on third reading for final passage. Any discussion? If not, clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President?
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote? Explain their vote. If not, the clerk will take the call. With 45 votes in the affirmative, Senate Bill 760 having received a constitutional majority is declared passed. Clerk will read the next bill.
Senate Bill 771, Senator M. Washington, Education Initial Teacher Certification Requirements.
Senate Bill 771 is on third reading for final passage. Any discussion? If not, clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote, explain their vote. If not, the clerk will take the call. With 45 votes in the affirmative, Senate Bill 771 having received a constitutional majority is declared passed. Clerk will read the next bill.
Senate Bill 775, the President, State Officers, Employees, Required Surety Bonds, Insurance Policies, authorized.
Senate Bill 775 is on third reading for final passage. Any discussion? If not, clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote, explain their vote. If not, the clerk will take the call. With 45 votes in the affirmative, Senate Bill 775 having received a constitutional majority is declared passed. Clerk will read the next bill.
Senate Bill 778, Senator Gallion, Health Insurance Hearing Aids for Adults Coverage.
Senate Bill 778 is on third reading for final passage. Any discussion? If not, clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote, explain their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. With 45 votes in the affirmative, Senate Bill 778 having received a constitutional majority is declared passed. Clerk will read the next bill.
Senate Bill 825, Senator Kramer, Health Facilities Delegation of Inspection Authority, Nursing Homes.
Senate Bill 825 is on third reading for final passage. Any discussion? If not, clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote, explain their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. With 45 votes in the affirmative, Senate Bill 825 having received a constitutional majority is declared passed. Clerk will read the next bill. Yep, that's it. Let's go to, well, that's not it. Let's be very clear. It's like, we're through the first quarter. Yeah. You know, this is what it is. On to 55. Clerk will read the first bill.
Senate Bill 810, Senator Mouts,
Senate
Dorchester
Bill-
County Property Leases, Notice of Exemptions.
Senate Bill 810 is on third reading for final passage. Any discussion? If not, clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote, explain their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. With 44 votes in the affirmative, Senate Bill 810 having received a constitutional majority is declared passed. Clerk will read the next bill.
Senate Bill 827, Senator Smith, Courts and Judicial Proceedings, Jury Examination Work Group to study the voir dire process.
Senate Bill 827 is on third reading for final passage. Any discussion? If not, clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote, explain their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. With 45 votes in the affirmative, Senate Bill 827 having received a constitutional majority is declared passed. Clerk will read the next bill.
Senate Bill 830, Senator Klossmeyer, State Board of Physicians, Performance of X-ray Duties Without a License.
Senate Bill 830 is on third reading for final passage. Any discussion? If not, clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote, explain their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. With 45 votes in the affirmative, Senate Bill 830 having received a constitutional majority is declared passed. Clerk will read the next bill.
Senate Bill 846, Senator Klossmeyer, Maryland Department of Labor, Unemployment Insurance Study and Actively Seeking Work Requirements.
Senate Bill 846 is on third reader for final passage. Any discussion? If not, clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote, explain their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. With 45 votes in the affirmative, Senate Bill 846 having received a constitutional majority is declared passed. Clerk will read the next bill.
Senate Bill 873, Senator McKay, Courts, Immunity from Liability, Maryland Safe Haven Program.
Senate Bill 873 is on third reading for final passage. Any discussion? If not, clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote, explain their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. With 45 votes in the affirmative, Senate Bill 873 having received a constitutional majority is declared passed. Clerk will read the next bill.
Senate Bill 982, Senator Hester, Information Technology, Modernization of Information Technology Products.
Senate Bill 982 is on third reading for final passage. Any discussion? If not, clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote, explain their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. With 45 votes in the affirmative, Senate Bill 982 having received a constitutional majority is declared passed. Clerk will read the next bill.
Senate Bill 1041, Senator Guile, Alcoholic Beverages, Breweries, Wineries, Distilleries, Direct Delivery.
Senate Bill 1041 is on third reading for final passage. Any discussion? If not, clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote, explain their vote. If not, the clerk will take the call. With 44 votes in the affirmative, Senate Bill 1041, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk will read the next bill.
Senate Bill 1067, Central West, Baltimore County Speed Monitoring Systems, Interstate 695.
Senate Bill 1067 is on third reading for final passage. Any discussion? If not, clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote, explain their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. With 37 votes in the affirmative, Senate Bill 1067, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. 56. Oh, Chair recognizes the senator from 24th.
Thank you, Mr. President.
26.
I would like to be recorded in the affirmative on 1041.
1041 in the
Yes,
green.
thank
Any
you.
objections? Without objection, so ordered. All right. Third reading calendar 56. Clerk will read the first bill.
Senate Bill 261, Chair, Education, Energy, and the Environment Committee, State Board of Barbers, Sunset Extension, and Report.
Senate Bill 261 is on third reading for final passage. Any discussion? If not, clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote, explain their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. With 45 votes in the affirmative, Senate Bill 261, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk will read the next bill.
Senate Bill 264, Chair, Education, Energy, and the Environment Committee, State Board of Cosmetologists, Sunset Extension, and Report.
Senate Bill 264 is on third reading for final passage. Any discussion? If not, clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote, explain their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. With 45 votes in the affirmative, Senate Bills 264, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk will read the next bill.
Senate Bill 288, Chair, Education, Energy, and the Environment Committee, State Board of Individual Tax Preparers, Sunset Extension, and Report.
Senate Bill 288 is on third reading for final passage. Any discussion? If not, clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote, explain their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. 45 votes in the affirmative. Senate Bill 288, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk, read the next bill.
Senate Bill 296, Chair, Education, Energy, and the Environment Committee, State Board for Professional Land Surveyors, Sunset Extension, and Report.
Senate Bill 296 is on third reading for final passage. Any discussion? If not, clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote, explain their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. With 45 votes in the affirmative, Senate Bill 296, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk will read the next bill.
Senate Bill 307, Chair, Education, Energy, and the Environment Committee, Public Safety Board of Boiler Rules, Membership, Sunset Extension, and Report.
Senate Bill 307 is on third reading for final passage. Any discussion? If not, clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote, explain their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. With 45 votes in the affirmative, Senate Bill 307, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk will read the next bill.
Senate Bill 460, Senator Kagan, Unemployment Insurance Benefits Election Judges.
Senate Bill 460 is on third reading for final passage. Any discussion? If not, clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote, explain their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. With 45 votes in the affirmative, Senate Bill 460, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk will read the next bill.
Senate Bill 718, Senator Lamb, Maryland Pathway to Nursing Pilot Program Advisory Committee Establishment.
Senate Bill 718 is on third reading, final passage. Any discussion? If not, clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote, explain their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. 45 votes in the affirmative, Senate Bill 718, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk will read the next bill.
Senate Bill 906, Senator Augustine, Housing and Community Development, Conversion of Commercial Buildings for Residential Use Report.
Senate Bill 906 is on third reading for final passage. Any discussion? If not, clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote, explain their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. With 44 votes in the affirmative, Senate Bill 906, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk will read the next bill.
Senate Bill 991, Senator Lamb, Behavioral Health Language Assistance Services Pilot Program.
Senate Bill 991 is on third reading for final passage. Any discussion? If not, clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote, explain their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. 45 votes in the affirmative, Senate Bill 991, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk will read the next bill.
Senate Bill 1005, Senator Hayes, Economic Development, West North Avenue Development Authority alterations.
Senate Bill 1005 is on third reading for final passage. Any discussion? If not, clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote, explain their vote. If not, the clerk will take the call. With 44 votes in the affirmative, Senate Bill 1005, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Calendar 57. Clerk will read the first bill.
Senate Bill 22, Senator Hayes, Baltimore City Alcoholic Beverages Board of License Commissioners.
Senate Bill 22 is on third reading for final passage. Any discussion? If not, clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote, explain their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. With 44 votes in the affirmative, Senate Bill 22, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk, read the next bill.
Senate Bill 300, Chair, Education, Energy, and the Environment Committee, Natural Resources, Wildland Areas, Beltwoods, Wildland.
Senate Bill 300 is on third reading for final passage. Any discussion? If not, clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote, explain their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. With 45 votes in the affirmative, Senate Bill 300, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk will read the next bill.
Senate Bill 451, Senator Brooks, Baltimore County Board of Education, Non-Student Member Compensation and Student Member Scholarships alterations.
Senate Bill 451 is on third reading for final passage. Any discussion? If not, clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote, explain their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. With 45 votes in the affirmative, Senate Bill 451, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk will read the next bill.
Senate Bill 458, Senator Kagan, Campaign Finance, Political Organizations, Prohibitions and Disclosures.
Senate Bill 458 is on third reading for final passage. Chair recognizes the minority whip on the bill.
Mr. President, can I ask the floor leader a question on this bill?
Appears so. Senator may
Of
proceed.
course.
I think I missed this on second reading. I'm looking at this is dealing with independent expenditures under state. So state, they're not super PACs. That's a federal term, but these are state IEs, basically, right?
Correct.
State independent expenditures. I was looking at the. Oh shoot! I'm trying to find the page. Page 3. Some of this I get. Nope, not necessarily a problem with it. But a person subject to this section may not. There's a lot in here about what you're authorized to do as a person to carry out executive or managerial authority over the operation of the person. And then further down, you're authorized to solicit or disperse funds for or on behalf of the person or a paid or unpaid employee. There's a lot of discussion of that. Can you explain? It seems like they're using the word person to talk about the entity. Is that correct?
Correct. That's correct. And that's always confusing from our bill drafters, but that's the case.
Okay, what is that section I'm just referring to? What is it governing?
So these are organizations that are just doing independent expenditures. They are not affiliated with a union or a company, and they're scam PACs. As you may remember on second reader, I talked about how the FBI and the Federal Election Commission have both publicized that these are increasingly common fraudulent organizations. I told 3 stories about people, our constituents, who have been ripped off. I'm happy to share them again, one in Catonsville, one in Annapolis, and one in Montgomery County, of people saying they were raising money for a dinner with President Trump, on behalf of Ken Cuccinelli, or on behalf of volunteer firefighters.
No, it does happen.
All of it was phony.
I'm not questioning that. I'm trying to, though, in trying to fix that problem, I just wanted to make sure. I saw things about volunteering and about like a person subject to this section may not employ or allow to volunteer on behalf of the person, an individual who owns or that part.
Can you give me the page and line
I'm sorry,
number?
page 3, line 25.
So some of this, yes, this is about self-dealing. So I can't start an independent expenditure organization that just does IE, independent expenditures, and then raise millions of dollars and give it all to my brother-in-law, or give it all, or keep it for myself. It's
You say give it to my brother-in-law, so I raise a bunch of money for some national figure, allegedly.
Allegedly.
And then I'm going to give it. When you say give it, is that like saying I can't just give it as payment for wages or
So literally, this money is being raised, and the purpose for which it's allegedly being raised is not the purpose for which the money is used.
Oh, I know that, but how does this? What is this language? This language is saying you can't do what you just said, basically.
Right. You just can't do self-dealing, and the State Board of Elections is going to have oversight. They will have subpoena power, and we want to make sure to put these bad guys out of business.
Okay, and then secondly, further down on page 4,
Yes.
you start getting into what these entities have to put on their website.
Yes.
And
transparency is an important part of this bill.
I know, and I'm not arguing. I have no problem with it. My question is more, what they put on the website is fine. This website is not the official website of Jimmy Smith or whoever. But the statement required under paragraph 1 of this subsection shall be included on the website's homepage, each web page used for solicitation. Okay, that's fine. But then when we get down here, you have to put on the website the 10 largest recipients of expenditures or disbursements made by the person, which I now understand is the entity, in the most recently completed calendar quarter, but we don't file campaign finance reports by quarter.
This is a different kind of entity.
So
and
they
this
do
is
have to
trying
file
get
regular
the-
reports.
Right. This is trying to get our arms around these scam
I know. And then the percentage of you have to put this all on your public website?
Indeed, that's part of the accountability and transparency.
Well, we keep talking about scam packs, but this will hit anybody. There's lots of IEs that are not scams.
Correct. Yeah, so the Federal Election Commission would oversee anyone who's helping to elect or defeat a member of Congress, and if there are organizations, a union, a business, that does some direct money and some independent expenditures, they do a mailer that says re-elect or defeat or vote for this other person, that is not covered.
So like for example, if like a union's a good example. So if a union has a special IE they've set up for the Baltimore city elections this year, as long as they're governed by a set, these are PACs that are under a different category?
This was just set up for the purpose of allegedly independent expenditures. So the organizations that we know about, I mean, I've done independent expenditures out of my campaign account, but I'm not covered under this. You wouldn't be covered under this. The labor union, the businesses, not covered.
What about a 501c4?
A 501c4 that is just
Well, they can't do
organized for the
electioneering.
purpose of, if there were any organization that just is organized for the purpose of independent expenditure, that's what this is covering. And it's
Okay.
really, it's very narrow, and it's
I
just
get
trying
it.
to get our arms around that.
Okay, I just wanted to clarify what it was applying to, because so this is what's the name of the entity? Is it an independent expenditure? Is it under the state? It's not a 527. It's not a.
But is it called something? Yeah, so they're
And Mr. President, I'm not trying to be deleterious. I actually just wanted to be sure. There's a lot going on in campaign finance world now with different types of people set up IEs, they do this, they do that. I just wanted to be sure we weren't catching something. Not that I'm sure the committee has done its homework. I'm just clarifying.
I don't know if there's a name for them, and that's
Okay.
why they're called scam packs.
And persons, and that's why we keep using the word person, because it's
Persons
not an
is an-
organization.
Right, but person in our code is a company, a nonprofit,
Okay.
it's or an individual human.
But if you're setting up an organization and you have an arm of your organization that does this kind of thing, that's not the issue here. It's
No, sir.
okay. All right. Thank you very much for the answers.
Sure.
Thank you, Mr. President.
All right. Bill's on third reading, final passage. Any further discussion? If not, clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President?
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote, explain their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. With 43 votes in the affirmative, Senate Bill 458, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed.
Mr. President, can we ring the bells?
Yes, we can. Thank you, Senator. All right. Clerk will read the next bill.
Senate Bill 485, Senator Hayes, Family and Medical Leave Insurance Program Modifications.
Senate Bill 485 is on third reading for final passage. Any discussion? If not, clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote? Explain their vote. If not, the clerk will take the call. With 33 votes in the affirmative, Senate Bill 485, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk will read the next bill.
Senate Bill 915, Senator Brooks, Agriculture Invasive Plant Species Regulation, Biodiversity, and Agriculture Protection Act.
Senate Bill 915 is on third reading for final passage. Any discussion? If not, clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Should change their vote, explain their vote. If not, the clerk will take the call. Oops, let's scratch the.
Okay.
Let's scratch the bit if we could. Called it a bit early there.
Okay.
If we could, if the clerk could call the roll again.
Mr. President,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote, explain their vote. If not, the clerk will take the call. With 44 votes in the affirmative, Senate Bill 915, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. All right, number 59. Clerk will read the first bill.
Senate Bill 883, Senator King, Education, Virtual Tutoring Services, Background Checks, and Fingerprinting.
Senate Bill 883 is on third reading for final passage. Any discussion? If not, clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote, explain their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. With 44 votes in the affirmative, Senate Bill 883, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk will read the next bill.
Senate Bill 950, Senator Hedelman, Sexual Assault Forensic Examination Conducted Through Telehealth, Reimbursement, and Study.
Senate Bill 950 is on third reading for final passage. Any discussion? If not, clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote, explain their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. With 44 votes in the affirmative, Senate Bill 950, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk will read the next bill.
Senate Bill 967, Senator Zucker, Higher Education Part-Time Senatorial and Delegate Scholarships Alterations.
Senate Bill 967 is on third reading for final passage. Any discussion? If not, clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote, explain their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. With 43 votes in the affirmative, Senate Bill 967, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk will read the next bill.
Senate Bill 1026, Senator Brooks, County Board of Education Budgets Notice Transparency and Education Spending Act.
Senate Bill 1026 is on third reading for final passage. Any discussion? If not, clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote, explain their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. With 44 votes in the affirmative, Senate Bill 1026, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk will read the next bill.
Senate Bill 1091, Senator Watson, Education Blind and Visually Impaired Students Textbook Equity.
Senate Bill 1091 is on third reading for final passage. Any discussion? If not, clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote, explain their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. With 44 votes in the affirmative, Senate Bill 1091, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk will read the next bill.
Senate Bill 1178, Senator Bailey, Higher Education, Douglas J.J. Peters, Veterans of the Afghanistan and Iraq Conflict Scholarship, Repeal of Service Termination Dates. This is an emergency bill.
Senate Bill 1178 is on third reading for final passage. This is an emergency bill. Any discussion? If not, clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote, explain their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. With 44 votes in the affirmative, Senate Bill 1178, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. On to 60. Clerk will read the first bill.
Senate Bill 138, Senator Hayes, Property Taxes Authority of Counties to establish a subclass and set a special rate for vacant and abandoned property.
Senate Bill 138 is on third reading for final passage. Any discussion? If not, clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote, explain their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. With 34 votes in the affirmative, Senate Bill 138, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk will read the next bill.
Senate Bill 589, Senator Bailey, Tri-County Council for Southern Maryland Agriculture Development Commission funding.
Senate Bill 589 is on third reading for final passage. Any discussion? If not, clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote, explain their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. With 43 votes in the affirmative, Senate Bill 589, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk will read the next bill.
Senate Bill 677, the President, Comptroller Electronic Tax Fee Return Filing Requirements.
Senate Bill 677 is on third reading for final passage. Any discussion? If not, clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote, explain their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. With 44 votes in the affirmative, Senate Bill 677, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk, read the next bill.
Senate Bill 878, Senator Klossmeyer, Gaming Problem Gambling Prevalent Study Fund Revenue.
Senate Bill 878 is on third reading for final passage. Any discussion? If not, clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote, explain their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. With 44 votes in the affirmative, Senate Bill 878, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk, read the next bill.
Senate Bill 1142, Senator Zucker, Tax Clearance for Low-Income Marylanders Funding.
Senate Bill 1142 is on third reading for final passage. Any discussion? If not, clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote, explain their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. With 44 votes in the affirmative, Senate Bill 1142, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. All right, that's halftime. Ready for Usher? Right? Anyone? No? All right, into the third quarter. We're going to go, let's see which ones we can get rid of quickly. Let's try layover calendar number 33. 33. This is the one we were missing some amendments.
Senate Bill 174, Senator Muse, Child Support Suspension of Driver's License. Question is on the adoption of the two committee amendments and the favorable report.
All right, question remains on the two committee amendments. Any discussion? Any objections? Without objection, the two committee amendments are adopted. Question now is on the amended report. Any discussion? Any objections? Without objection, the amended report is adopted. Are there any further amendments to the bill or its title? Seeing none, Senate Bill 174 is hereby ordered printed for third reading. Let's do 26. Layover calendar 26. The clerk will read the bill.
Senate Bill 1007, Senator Hayes, State Government Executive Appointments. Question is on the adoption of the two committee amendments and the favorable report.
Questions on the two committee amendments and the favorable committee report. On the amendments, any discussion? Any objections? Without objection, the two committee amendments are adopted. Question now is on the amended report. Any discussion? Any objection? Without objection, the amended report is adopted. It appears the sponsor has amendments. Pages will collect and distribute the senator's amendment. All right, Senator can explain the amendment.
Thank you, Mr. President. Similar to the previous amendments, what we did with the State Board of Elections, this bill gives the governor the authority to appoint an individual member of the Accountability and Implementation Board during recess of the Senate, regardless of whether the term of office of the member will end during the next upcoming recess. Move favorable to the amendment.
All right, the senator moves the amendment. Any discussion? Any objections? Without objection, the amendment is adopted. Are there any further amendments to the bill or its title? Seeing none, Senate Bill 1007 is hereby ordered printed for third reading. Let's see if we're ready. This is layover calendar 30.
Senate Bill 1077, Senator Corderman, Public Schools Appropriation for School Safety Expenditures and School Security Employees. Questions on the adoption of the two committee amendments and the favorable report.
All right. Question is on the adoption of the two committee amendments. Do we have a subsequent amendment? All right, on the two committee amendments, any discussion, any objections? Without objection, the two committee amendments are adopted. Question now is on the amended report. Any discussion? Any objections? Without objection, the amended report is adopted. Check with the floor leader. Has an amendment? Oh, no, Senator from District 9?
Yes, I have an amendment.
Has an amendment?
I have an amendment.
All right, pages will collect and distribute the senator's amendment. All right, Senator may explain the amendment.
Thank you, Mr. President. Colleagues, I've worked for a couple of years with the Maryland Center for School Safety, and this was one of the recommendations of their report from about 18 months ago. So basically, the amendment requires the Maryland Center for School Safety, the State Department of Education, the Maryland Coordination and Analysis Center, and the Interagency Commission on School Construction to jointly review and provide guidance on the state of physical security in our schools. They just need a bit of help getting all of these agencies working together towards the same goal. And I hope it will be a friendly amendment. The amendment also adds myself as a co-sponsor.
All right, on the amendment, let's hear from the bill floor leader.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. President. Yeah, we view this as a friendly amendment.
All right, no objections to the amendment from the committee. Any objections from the floor? Without objection, the amendment is adopted. Are there any further amendments to the bill or its title? Seeing none, Senate Bill 1077 is hereby ordered printed for third reading. Let's go to labor calendar number 3131. Clerk will read the bill.
Senate Bill 951, Senator Heddleman, Business Regulation, Electric Vehicle Supply Equipment Regulations for Retail Use. Questions on the adoption of the two committee amendments and the favorable report.
Question is on the two committee amendments and the favorable committee report. On the amendments, Chair recognizes the minority leader.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. I was able to talk with the sponsor of the bill, and although I still have some concerns, I think she did a good job of trying to alleviate those, so no further questions.
All right, thank you, Senator. All right, any further discussion on the amendments? Any objections? Without objection, the two committee amendments are adopted. Question now on the amended report. Any discussion? Any objections? Without objection, the amended report is adopted. Are there any amendments to the bill or its title? Seeing none, Senate Bill 951 is hereby ordered printed for third reading. Let's go to labor 3232. Clerk will read the bill.
Senate Bill 791, Senator Klossmeyer, Health Insurance Utilization Review Revisions. Questions on the adoption of the three committee amendments and the favorable report.
Question is on the three committee amendments. Any discussion? Any objections? Without objection, the three committee amendments are adopted. Question now is on the amended report. Any discussion? Any objections? Without objection, the amended report is adopted. Appears the bill sponsor has a amendment. Pages will collect and distribute the senator's amendment.
You want me to say what it does?
Just one moment. Yeah, yes, but in just a sec. Let's get it loaded onto the system here. Senator may explain the amendment.
Okay, the amendment expands the protection in the bill relating to prescription drugs and reauthorization so that a carrier must allow an insured to stay on a prescription drug that is a biological product used for immunotherapy if it's been approved before and has been affected. So that just means you'll be able to stay on your immune therapy. So.
All right.
Okay.
All right. Senators move the amendment. Any discussion? Any objections? If not, motion, the amendment is adopted. Are there any further amendments to the bill or its title? Seeing none, Senate Bill 791 is hereby ordered printed for third reading. Let's go to Special Order Calendar number 46. 46.
Senate Bill 840, Senator Sidnor, Public Safety Automatic License Plate Readers, Captured Plate Data. Question is in the adoption of the favorable report as amended.
All right, question is on the report as amended. Any discussion? Any objections? Without objection, the favorable committee report as amended is adopted. Appears there may be an amendment. Recognizing the Vice Chair of the committee.
There's an amendment, and Different committee.
Oh, pages will collect and distribute the senator's amendment. There it goes. All right, Senator may explain the amendment.
Thank you, Mr. President. I want to thank the sponsor of the bill for the conversation about this. Bottom line is we're going to be collecting license plate information, and we ought to figure out what percentage, what number of license plates can't be read. We're going to get a report, and then this amendment also proposes, rather than October 1st effective date, that the bill goes to July 1st, so we can get 6 months of good data, get a report in January. Move the adoption of a favorable committee amendment.
All right, floor leader, or excuse me, the senator moves the amendment. Let's hear from the floor leader on the bill.
Be accepted as a friendly amendment.
All right, friendly amendment from the committee. Any objections from the floor? Without objection, the amendment is adopted. Are there any further amendments to the bill or its title? Seeing none, Senate Bill 840 is hereby ordered printed for third reading. All right, let's go to Special Order Calendar 48. Clerk will read the bill.
Senate Bill 429, Senator Bailey, Corporations and Associations, Protestant Episcopal Church, Diocese of Washington. Question is on the adoption of the favorable report.
All right, question is on the adoption of the favorable report. Senator from the 20th District.
Yes, thank you, Mr. President. In the interest of time, I'll just discuss one issue and I have one amendment.
Sure, certainly. Senator, want to go ahead on the issue itself?
Yes. So this bill, if my colleagues remember, it talks about the church and lay out some rules of conducting business meetings for this church. And first I was like stunned that we were legislating that. And I'm really concerned about the what we're doing in the Constitution. So the floor leader, and you're very versed in the Constitution, so what does the U.S. Constitution say about making laws in reference to churches and freedom of religion?
Well, the First Amendment of the Constitution guarantees the freedom of religion.
And what does it say about Congress? What should Congress do or not do in terms of laws?
Congress should not establish any official state religion.
Or make any laws having to do with the practice of religion, correct?
Don't believe it says that.
I'm sorry?
I don't believe it says that.
Okay, well, it does. How about the Maryland Constitution? What does the Maryland Constitution say about us dabbling into religion?
If you have the relevant provision, could you read it to us?
Well, I'm just asking you questions.
Off the top of my head, I'm not familiar with a particular provision in the Maryland Constitution which deals with this subject, but I'm sure you've checked it out, and that's why you're asking the question. What does it say?
What does it say? Let's see. What does it say? It says that we should not make any law governing religion. We should stay out of it. I know this bill quoted pre-Maryland Constitution, 17 whatever, and but I'm just concerned about what we're doing, making laws concerning religion. In the interest of time, I move fast forward, and on page, let me see, 3 of the bill, it says the bylaws may be adopted by a majority of the qualified voting at a regular or specially consecrational meeting called for that purpose. Am I reading that correctly?
Yes.
Okay. So what does that mean when bylaws can be changed by a majority of people showing up to this meeting?
It means the bylaws may be adopted or changed by a majority of the qualified voters voting at a regular or special congregational meeting called for that purpose.
So if, say, 5 people show up for this meeting, a majority would be
No, this bill requires, the section before the one you just read, it says each religious corporation subject to this part shall adopt bylaws to govern its corporate and temporal affairs. So
Right.
presumably bylaws have been adopted by this point.
Well,
and the
no,
bylaws provide for what a quorum would consist of. So if 5 people constitute a quorum, which is unlikely, that's a quorum. But in most cases, my guess is that these churches have more than 5 members, and that 5 would not constitute a quorum under the bylaws.
But it says that each religious corporation subject to this part shall adopt bylaws to govern its corporate and temporal affairs. And then it says, talk about the bylaws. These bylaws may be adopted by a majority of the qualified voters showing up.
Majority of the qualified voters voting, well, the qualified voters voting at a regular or special congregational meeting called for that purpose.
Right, just a majority of voters. So fast forward to our committees here, Senator. If you just have 5 members show up at a committee, that's a majority. 3 could pass a bill out of committee, which is not allowed.
No, let me go back. You're fast forwarding too fast.
Okay.
Well, so back during colonial times, the Episcopal Church was the official Church of Maryland, and it was then called the Church of England. So with the Revolution, Maryland, the colonies broke off from England and did not recognize the King of England as their ruler any longer. The Episcopal Church congregations in the United States, at that point, the Church of England congregations, also decided to break off from England so that the Archbishop of Canterbury would no longer be their controller. So they had to establish some kind of a different form organization. And in Maryland, the Maryland Vestry Act in 1798 was passed by the Maryland General Assembly. That is not codified in law, it is simply an act, but it continued to govern the Episcopal congregations in Maryland until 1976 and 1990, when 2 of the 3 dioceses in Maryland broke away, and we passed almost identical legislation in 1976 and 1990 to let the other 2 dioceses form their own charters, recorded with the State Department of Assessments and Taxation, and adopt bylaws. The Diocese of D.C., of Washington, D.C., did not ask to be included in 1976 or 1990. That's the purpose of this bill. So up until now, the Diocese of District of Columbia is governed, continues to be governed by the Maryland Vestry Act of 1798. So this bill enables the 54 churches in Montgomery, Prince George's, Charles County, your own county, and St. Mary's County to get out from under the Vestry Act of 1798 and come into the modern world and be able to have their own charters and their own sets of bylaws and govern themselves.
Right. Thank you for that background. And so I was trying to fast forward in the interest of time.
Okay.
So I'm just curious about the bylaws portion. That, the way this is written, a very small amount of people can show up and change the bylaws of these historic, very precious properties.
No, that would be the adoption. What you're referring to is the adoption, the initial adoption of a set of bylaws.
Correct.
So
yes,
the
correct.
qualified members of that particular parish get together and they can adopt a set of bylaws.
Right.
If only 5 people are interested in coming to the meeting, then 5 people can indeed adopt the bylaws.
Yeah.
But then and then if they want to amend the bylaws, the existing bylaws that they have adopted previously will specify the quorum that's necessary for an appropriate meeting of the congregation at which amendments to those bylaws can be adopted.
Correct. Yes, sir, correct. So the thing is, as a CPA in training, I took a lot of business law. And I know
That's
the
great.
chair of the Finance Committee can confirm that CPAs really delve deep into business law and processes. And looking at the bylaws here as written, it would subvert the Roberts Rule of Order. It would allow a small number of people to come together and change the bylaws to affect bank and sale of these institutions. And what happens, as a person, I've seen this before, when a lot of these churches, the membership changes to say all black or all Latino or South Asian, the move is made to sell these institutions without the congregation knowing about it, and the congregation have to find a new place of worship. So that's why I'm concerned about this. I've seen this before in my professional role as a CPA. There were individuals like this. And so,
if I could interrupt for a second,
so,
you're getting into a hypothetical,
but
which would relate to the
hold on.
bylaws
Let's
of a
give it-
particular
Senator,
church.
If we get to the question, please.
I'm sorry, Mr.
Oh,
President.
Senator, when you get to the question.
Well, yes, the question is, so it's not hypothetical. I've said I've seen it before as a CPA who've taken many classes and testified for attorneys in business law matters. I'm just telling you it's a fact that has happened. And so this bill, as written, will make it easy for that subterfuge to happen, where a small number of people who control the church will sell these institutions or get huge mortgage on these institutions without the membership at large knowing about it. And either the membership, typically immigrants, African Americans move into an area, think they have a vote in the church, but under subterfuge with bylaws like this, are allowed to either mortgage the church to the teeth or sell the church out of the membership. And so that's the reason why I talked about the bylaws will authorize a majority, it's clear it says a majority of the qualified members showing up to vote to change the bylaws, and that is very much dangerous, and it's not a hypothetical. That's my point.
Okay, if I could respond. If a church was irresponsible enough to establish bylaws which allow 5 congregation members to come together and decide to sell the church, that's the church's responsibility. But most responsible churches, even as most responsible corporations, most responsible limited partnerships, most responsible condominium associations, etc., establish bylaws which are comprehensive enough and responsible enough to require a reasonable number of people to constitute a quorum.
Right. And so under that situation, we would have the bylaws, it would say the bylaws and meetings to change the bylaws must be done in accordance to Robert's Rule of Order.
No. Well, not necessarily. This body doesn't operate by Robert's Rules of Order. In order to be governed by Robert's Rules of Order, the bylaws would have to provide that the organization is governed by Robert's Rules of Order. It's not inevitable.
Well, it's not inevitable, but basically, if we want to prescribe a way of doing this business where it's fair to the members, we need to put something in where it don't have a small number of people showing up and just change the bylaws and
Let me
do what they
disagree
want.
with you on that.
Okay, well,
The Corporations and Associations article contains elaborate provisions to allow all sorts of entities in Maryland to organize and to operate. Corporations, limited partnerships, limited liability companies, business trusts, professional service corporations, REITs, condominiums, agricultural co-ops, consumer co-ops, electrical co-ops, and religious corporations. It's part of the Corporations and Association article. And the reason for that is to give these organizations legitimacy so they can go to banks and or open bank accounts, and they can borrow money from banks, and the banks will lend to them. None of the laws in Maryland governing any of those organizations require them to adopt Robert's Rules of Order. If they want to do it, they do it through their bylaws.
Correct. That's correct, sir. And I have an amendment, Mr. President, to end.
All right, let's
this
take up the
conversation.
report. Let's see if there any further discussion on the report. If not, any objections? Without objection, the favorable committee report is adopted. Senator has an amendment. We will, pages will collect and distribute the senator's amendment. Give us just a moment to get it loaded. All right, the senator may explain the amendment.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. President. So, under the current language in this bill, just need a simple majority. This is very problematic. This body and the committee chose this matter to conduct these meetings. And so this amendment, in my opinion, chooses a more fair method where a bad actor or actors cannot conduct the meetings, change the bylaws. So it calls for the use of the Robert's Rules of Order in calling these meetings and to amend the bylaws.
All right, the senator moves the amendment.
I move the amendment, Mr. President.
The floor leader on the amendment.
Thank you, Mr. President. It would have helped if I'd seen a copy of the amendment before now, but having just quickly read it, what it does is to require these churches to operate under Robert's Rules of Order. As I indicated a couple of minutes ago, the Corporations and Associations article, it goes on at great length covering the operations of every other organization in Maryland, starting with corporations and ending up with religious corporations. Title V, Subtitle 3 is entitled Religious Corporations, and currently has lots of provisions governing religious corporations. So there are certain specific religions, the United Methodist Church, the United Presbyterian Church, and the Protestant Episcopal Church of Maryland, which are specifically set forth in the Corporations and Associations article. All of the other religious organizations in Maryland are governed by Subtitle 3. It's called Religious Corporations, and it's Subtitle 1 of Title 5. And none of the, in no case, in not a single case, do the Maryland statutes require any form of organization to use Robert's Rules of Order. Right. It is their choice whether or not to adopt Robert's Rules of Order, and typically they do it in their bylaws. So it would be inappropriate for us to require the Episcopal churches in your district, the 54 Episcopal churches, to adopt Robert's Rules of Order.
Any senator's district, any senator's district.
Excuse me. Yes, I'm sorry.
All right.
Got it. I'm sorry. I shouldn't have used the pronoun your.
Yeah. So, may I respond to that?
Let's just see.
I would ask the body to reject the amendment.
Okay. All right. Any senators who have not yet spoken on the amendment wish to speak? If not, let's hear from the maker of the amendment.
So we will see with another amendment the slippery slope we are going down after this amendment is made. And so what I'm saying, Mr. President, is I ask for my colleagues to just put the simple amendment in to make sure that since we want to prescribe the making and changing of bylaws in this bill, we put a clause in to make it fairer and more practical and common usage.
All right. Senator presses the amendment. Any further discussion on the amendment? If not, all in favor of the amendment say aye. Opposed, nay. Senator's amendment doesn't quite make it. Are there any further amendments to the bill or its title? Seeing none, Senate Bill 429 is hereby ordered printed for third reading. Oh, I'm sorry. Was
I was waiting. I was waiting for my chairman. Let me present it, and then you can, or do you want to, and then I can speak to it.
No, you go ahead.
Let me speak to it. I think it kind of addresses something that you said, but it addresses as well where we are as a committee. I do know about church polity. I've been a professor in seminaries and universities on church polity. This one deals with an amendment that deals with the study of the United Methodist Church. And let me give a brief statement about that. In 1968, the Evangelical United Brethren, the Methodist Episcopal Church, and the African American Methodist Church, they merged and they created the United Methodist Church. What a lot of the lay persons in the congregations did not know is that there was a vote taken by the executive board, and my father was a part of that, so I know intimately well. They took a vote, and what that vote did was to say that all property is held in trust by the United Methodist Church. Since then, we had a bill before us in 2014 when we found out that a lot of these congregations were being sold off, especially many of the African American congregations, because they could not afford the fees that they call apportionments. They could not afford the fees, and they were selling the congregations and putting the congregations in the street. Now, even though the congregations built the churches, and many went back 100 to 150 years, they paid to stay into the church, and they paid for everything in the church. We voted that out of this body. I sponsored that bill. We voted it out of the JPR committee, out of this body. Now, it got hung up on Sunday night, blah, blah, blah. Now, this year, the United Methodist Church has now split into 3 different bodies. And people are making a choice as to which body they want to be, which body they want to be a part of. In the process, churches are being told that they were told at first that you can leave, and all you have to do is pay a portion of your, the apportionments that you owe. And as it appeared that many of them wanted to leave, the rule was somehow then changed to say you have to pay for your building or a large portion of your building, and you have about 3 to 6 months to do it. At the same time, they said, according to their bylaws, that they held all of the money in bank accounts, et cetera, et cetera. And long story short, this amendment now follows through on having a study done.
Senator, do we have that amendment?
Yes. I thought you had, my chairman, I don't want to go through his desk, but you wanted to see that we corrected. I won't do that unless
We don't have it. We don't have the amendment.
So then that saves a speech for tomorrow. We can just move with saying that it's a friendly amendment.
So there was an amendment. Got it. It was a background of an amendment. Okay. Well, we don't have it. Let's just let's see if we can. Why don't we do this? We got plenty of time. I think we'll get there.
Mr. President, could I special order this bill until tomorrow's session?
Let's do that. Any objections? We'll special order the bill to the appropriate time tomorrow, tomorrow's morning session. Okay, excellent. All right. I think we were, okay, all good. Oh, I'm sorry. Special order number 47. 47. Clerk will read the bill.
Senate Bill 99, Senator Kagan, election law affiliating with party and voting unaffiliated voters. Question is on the adoption of the favorable report.
Questions on the favorable report? Recognizing the bill sponsor.
Thank you, Mr. President. I believe that this bill is good for voters, good for both political parties, and good for democracy. I think that is not the consensus from reading this body from earlier today, and I don't want to take the body's time to debate this further. So with that, Mr. President, I would reluctantly ask that we recommit this bill back to my committee.
All right, Senator's made the motion to recommit. Any objections? Without objection, so ordered. And for what it's worth, Senator, I agree with you. So sometimes timing isn't right. All right. Let's go. We are now in the fourth quarter. We're almost there. Easy things left. Make it a quick fourth quarter, right? Let's go to layover calendar number 27. Clerk will read the bill.
Senate Bill 1092, Senator Gazzone, Vehicle Registration Emergency Medical System Surcharge Increase in Distribution of Funds. Question is in the adoption of the 4 committee amendments and the favorable report.
Recognizing Chair of the Committee.
Special order to the appropriate time tomorrow, please.
All right. Any objections? Without objection, the bill will be special ordered to the appropriate time tomorrow. Layover calendar number 2828. Clerk will read the bill.
Senate Bill 784, Senator Elfreth, Comprehensive Community Safety Funding Act. Question is on the adoption of the 2 committee amendments and the favorable report.
Question is on the adoption of the 2 committee amendments and the favorable committee report. On the amendments, Chair recognizes the Minority Whip.
Mr. President, I was curious if we could special order this till tomorrow morning, and not for the reason you might assume I want a special order. Just I have an amendment that we've ordered, but I think it was a little bit complex and it's not ready yet.
All right. Let's see. Let's check with the floor leader. Senators move to special order the bill to the appropriate time tomorrow. Check with the floor leader.
That's okay, Mr. President. We'll accept it.
All right.
Thank
No
you.
objections from the committee. Any objections from the floor?
And we will certainly share amendments as we get them. Thank
Wonderful. All right. Without objection, the bill will be special ordered to the appropriate time tomorrow. Layover calendar number 2929. Clerk will read the bill.
Senate Bill 1065, Motor Vehicles Registration Annual Surcharge. Question is on the adoption of the 2 committee amendments and the favorable report.
Questions on the adoption of the 2 committee amendments and the favorable committee report. On the amendments, any discussion of the amendments, committee amendments? Any objection to the committee amendments? Without objection, the committee amendments are adopted. Question now is on the amended report. Chair recognizes the Senator from District 1.
Thank you, Mr. President. I have an amendment.
All right, just one moment on the report. Any discussion on the amended report? Any objections to the report? Without objection, the amended report is adopted. Senator from District 1 has an amendment that the pages have collected and will distribute. And give us just a moment. Oh, I don't think that's it. See, this is why we wait for it to get loaded, because you just never know.
There we go. Forgot it.
There we go. All right, Senator may explain the amendment.
Thank you, Mr. President. Colleagues, this amendment increases the annual surcharge paid by EVs from $150 to $200. Now, this will better align with the amount of average Maryland motorist pays in gas taxes. How did we arrive to the 200? According to the EPA, the average vehicle gets about 28 miles to the gallon. According to the Federal Highway Administration, the average Marylander drives 13,490 miles per year. That's low compared to what I drive. So that the average Marylander purchases 481 gallons per year. When multiplied by the Maryland gas tax of 47 cents, we can estimate that the average Marylander pays $226 in gas tax a year. So the closest nice round number is $200 when I take off my shoes to actually calculate it all. Therefore, we will treat the owners of gas-powered and electric vehicles fairly. Both need to pay their fair share into the transportation fund. So, Mr. President, I move this amendment.
All right, Senator moves the amendment. Let's hear from the floor leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. Colleagues, I'm going to ask you to resist this amendment. You know, in this parallel universe that we're in right now where my colleague wants to raise this fee, I understand it. I do want to thank him for checking my math that I'd given out earlier, and you know, I sat here and did it in my head, and it looks like I was right, so thank you. But I appreciate what you're trying to do. I really do. But we need to start somewhere, and that's where we are. And it's just, this is a big increase for these owners. We're going to start somewhere. We found, as I said, the committee, we discussed it. We were at 200, we were at 100, we agreed at 150, and that's why we went there. So again, I just asked the committee, or the body, to resist this amendment.
All right, any senators who have not yet spoken who wish to speak? If not, to the maker, oh, I'm sorry, Senator from District 2, behind. On the amendment.
Thank you, Mr. President. I rise in support of this amendment. I want to see if the floor leader could have some time for a few questions here real quick.
Floor leader yield.
Yes, sir. So appreciate your math skills.
I got to tell you, they've improved since I've moved to the Budget Tax Committee.
I know. You're doing a great job, sir. What, could you just remind us again, your calculation on the annual amount that you calculated?
I'm sorry, which calculation? The amount?
Yes. 220 something, I believe you said this morning.
It's 226.
226. Okay.
Dollars, the average Marylander.
And then you had some other things you referenced. Alabama. What's the surcharge in Alabama?
Oh, you're looking at what other states have done. So
Yeah.
Alabama, they're 200.
200. How about Arkansas?
200.
Let's see what else we got here. Ohio?
Ohio, oh. $200.
Mm-hmm. How about Wyoming?
They're 200.
Our neighbors in West Virginia. What's West Virginia doing?
They're 200.
Excellent. How about in Georgia?
Georgia, sorry, bear with me here. $213.70.
Oh, wow. So Georgia's leading the pack. Excellent. All right. Thank you. Mr. President, on the amendment.
On the amendment.
I think we pride ourselves here as being leaders, and it looks like we got a little catching up to do, so I press the amendment. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Senator. Any senators who have not yet spoken wish to speak? Chair recognizes Senator from 19th District on the amendment.
Thank you, Mr. President. As long as we're living in this parallel universe, I would ask on this fee tax increase that we have a roll call.
Mr. President.
All right, let's hear from the floor leader, followed by the maker of the amendment. I think we will know where the issue stands.
Thank you, Mr. President. Colleagues, look, again, we need to start somewhere. That's where we are. I'm somebody that believes our fees and taxes should be closer to the minority leader's golf score than a bowling score. We want them low. That's a compliment. You should see him golf.
That's true.
You know, if he's talked about other states. Let's look at our neighboring states. Delaware is 0. Pennsylvania is 0. Virginia is 120. You know, we want to be competitive with our other states. Anywhere you live in this state, you're 45 minutes away from another state's border. We don't drive people out of the state going too high. I think 150 is a good starting point. You know, you did reference West Virginia at 200. Some people out in Western Maryland want to go to West Virginia. You know, that's been a debate prior, but I just think at this point, Mr. President, we just stick it at 150 and stick with the committee's vote. Thanks.
All right, let's go to the Senator from District 1, and I think we know the issue.
Yes, sir. On the amendment, colleagues, I believe that $200 is a nice round number. And being a full-figured senator, round numbers deserve a green vote. Thank you.
All right.
Thanks, President.
On the amendment, clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President?
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote? Explain their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. With 38 votes in the negative, the senator's amendment fails. From next bill, I think, is there, oh, 1 sec. All right, question, are there any further amendments to the bill or its title? Seeing none, Senate Bill, recognize the minority leader.
Amendment, please. I thought the vice chair was doing an amendment.
All right, Senator has an amendment. Pages will collect and distribute the senator's amendment.
Who's the floor leader?
It appears both coaches have saved their timeouts for the fourth quarter.
Too close over there.
2 challenge flags being used in both. Senator May explain the amendment.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. Obviously, some of these ideas that we are talking about with respect to finding additional revenue for the Transportation Trust Fund came from the Train Commission that met, I think, about 4 times over the interim. And as we did debate whether or not electric vehicles should pay to use the roads in Maryland like every other vehicle, we went back and forth on the amount, and my colleague just brought up a number of the different rates that we looked at in every other state. And we did come to an agreement there that we were going to make a recommendation to require a surcharge. But one of the interesting recommendations that came from the Sierra Club, of all people, the Sierra Club is the one that made this recommendation, that we had to explore different fee amounts for low-income individuals and recommend there be an option for motorists to pay this fee in installments throughout the year. So this simple $150 surcharge was required to have installment payments. And so my amendment very simply just removes that the ability for the EV surcharge to be paid through installment payments. And I would just suggest that, Mr. President, this is something that I don't believe that we do with any other type of surcharge or fee or registration or anything like that. Again, when it was recommended by the Sierra Club, Sierra, if you didn't see that, by the Sierra Club. When it was recommended by the Sierra Club, it was to focus on low and moderate income individuals. And this bill doesn't even say that at all. It just says that anyone, that the MVA would have to allow anyone to be able to pay this annual registration fee over time through installments. So I would think that we shouldn't go forward with a new concept like that when it asks that we just remove that from the bill and support the amendment. Thank you.
All right, on the amendment, let's hear from the floor leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. Senator, with all due respect, I've been wanting to say this a long time. I consider this an unfriendly amendment. But in all seriousness, this bill's about parity, taking those of us that drive internal combustion engines, that stop at the gas station once a week to fill up our car, that pay gas tax, that those who have electric vehicles, that they pay their share too. And let's talk about fairness. Those that have internal combustion engines, they pay it weekly whenever they go to the pump. Let's do simple math again. Let's say they fill their car once a week, 52 weeks a year, 2 years, comes out to 104 times that they make their installment payments for the gas tax. That's all we're doing, is asking that we do the same thing for those that have electric vehicles, that they have an opportunity to pay it through installments. Now you have to understand, it's only for that surcharge. This is not the registration fee. They still have to pay the full registration fee, which I believe is $135 today. So, Mr. President, again, I ask that we vote against this amendment.
All right, on the amendment, any further discussion? If not, all in favor of the amendment, say aye.
Mr. President.
Oh, yes, Chair.
I thought someone else might want to say
Minority
something.
Leader.
I just thought I would add one more bit of information with respect to this amendment. When this was presented by the Sierra Club in our commission meeting, I happened to be sitting next to the MVA administrator when the idea that came up that, we should allow this surcharge to be paid over time. And I won't say exactly what she said to me, but I will ask you to take a look at the fiscal note here. And on page 4, bottom of the fiscal note, it says MVA advises that it does not currently have an account receivable system in place that allows for installment payments as required under the bill. To set up such a system would require extensive programming effort. While the cost of that system has not been quantified, Mr. President, it could be significant. And let me tell you how significant, totaling several $100,000 or even more than $1 million. So we're going to set up $1 million system so that people with electric vehicles can pay $150 in installments. Okay, I'll remind you that we are struggling with the Transportation Trust Fund right now, that we have concerns about it. But to set up a system for $1 million so we can pay installments of $150 over a year, I don't think that that's very prudent. I don't think that's very fiscally responsible. So I would push that we accept this amendment and that we say if you have an electric vehicle, you pay your installment, you pay your fee on annually like everybody else does. Thank you, Mr. President.
All right. On the amendment, Chair recognizes the Chair of the Committee.
In 1996, 1997, I was the state director of the Sierra Club. And I wholeheartedly recommend that we resist this amendment. As far as the costs associated, or what the cost may be associated to implement it, over the course of time, we will work with the department and make sure that we minimize costs and think about a program that really works for everyone. So I hope you all will resist this amendment.
All right. On the amendment, if there's no further discussion, all in favor of the amendment, say aye. Opposed, nay. Amendment fails. Are there any further amendments to the bill or its title? Seeing none, Senate Bill 1065 is hereby ordered printed for third reading. Recognize the senator from the 26th district.
Thank you, Mr. President. If we can reconsider the special order of the bill and bring it back before us, we found the amendments.
Excellent. All right, the senator has moved to reconsider the vote by which the bill was special ordered until tomorrow. This is Senate Bill 429. Are there any objections to this special order? Without objection, the reconsideration. Without objection, the motion is reconsidered. The senator has an amendment. The pages have collected and are now distributing the amendment. We did hear some description.
Okay.
The senator may explain the amendment.
Thank you. This amendment repeals something that was done in 1968. Governor Marvin Mandel came down before our committee, the late Marvin Mandel, and said that it was one of the worst decisions he had made. We should not, and I agree, codify church law. Should not codify church law. That's what we did. This is looking at repealing it, but with a study to bring everyone to the table so we can come up with some kind of compromise between those who have lost their buildings because they wanted to leave, those who have stayed in, and because they don't have the money to pay for their buildings, and to see what we can do with this law that's codified. Not in many states. I believe it's only Allegheny County that was omitted from this back in the day when they did it. That's the amendment that we have in front of you.
All right, senator moves the amendment. Let's hear from the floor leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'm prepared to accept this as a friendly amendment, but there's a little problem. When I'm a persnickety lawyer. When I took a look at it, the amendment adverts to section 5236 of the Corporations and Association article. The appropriate article section is 5326, not 236. And then it refers to section 5237. The appropriate section is 5327. So I'm not sure at this point how I amend the amendment to do that.
Senator could make a motion to lay the bill over.
I'll move to lay the bill over to tomorrow so we can correct the amendment.
The motion is in order. The bill and the amendment will be laid over under the rules.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Good catch. All right, we've got one final calendar. This is layover calendar number 34. Clerk, read the bill.
Senate Bill 488, Senator Waldstreicher, Civil Actions, Public Nuisance, Firearm Industry Members, Gun Industry Accountability Act of 2024. Question is on the adoption of the two committee amendments in the favorable report.
Question is on the two committee amendments. Chair recognizes the minority whip on the amendments.
Thank you, Mr. President. I was curious about asking the floor leader maybe an additional question or two, if I might.
Will the floor leader yield to a question?
Happy to.
So, do we have, I don't know if we found out since we last spoke, but we still don't know if the Attorney General has been able to sue anybody civilly that is not under this bill. Have we found the answer to that question?
We did not, no.
Okay, all right, okay. And can I ask one other question, and then I think I'll be done. I found a list of questions that I'd written about this bill, and there's one in particular I thought. My understanding is that well, I know last year we gave the Attorney General the authority to handle police lawsuits, not police lawsuits. I'm sorry, to handle prosecutions.
Sure.
And we added some pins to the Attorney General's office for that.
Correct.
It was 8 more pins, is what I was informed. And so, how many cases have they taken up since that time?
I don't have an answer to that question. This bill, I hope I'm not getting ahead to your next question, but this bill does not add any pins to the Attorney General.
Does not. Okay, that's good to know, because there's been no suits filed as far as I know. There's been no cases, not suits, but there's been no cases on that. Of course, we're glad there's been no wrongful deaths, but there's been no cases. But it's been basically 8 more pins and contractors and $500,000. So I was curious if we'd added any more pins for this particular.
We have not.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Mr. President.
All right, on the two committee amendments, any further discussion on the amendments, committee amendments? If not, any objections to the committee amendments? Without objection, the two committee amendments are adopted. Question now is on the amended report. Chair recognizes the senator from the 29th District on the report.
Thank you, Mr. President. I have an amendment.
Just one moment. Before we get there, on the report, any further discussion of the report? If not, any objections to the report? Without objection, the amended report is adopted. Senator has an amendment. Pages are collecting and distributing the senator from the 29th District's amendment. Senator may explain the amendment.
Thank you, Mr. President. Colleagues, I'll be brief when I talk about this. The issue is that one thing that we're always doing in the General Assembly is we're always talking about accountability, we're talking about transparency, and we're talking about things like the questions that were just asked to the floor leader. And the fact is, I think that it's important that as a member of the General Assembly and our body, we know what the answers are. And that's what this amendment does. It simply asks a few reporting questions so that we as members of the General Assembly, we know the number of lawyers that are annually assigned to prosecute suits brought by the Attorney General's office. And it asks for that from 2014 to 2024. What the costs have incurred by lawyers to date, and what are anticipated overall costs for pursuing legal actions, such as included in this legislation. What portions of these costs are covered by travel expenses? How much manpower is devoted to pursuing current prosecutorial lawsuits? And how many lawyers do we need to hire in the future for currently filed lawsuits or for anticipated further legal actions? And finally, it would ask for the outcome of each suit filed and what was the resolution for that lawsuit. I move the amendment, Mr. President.
All right, Senator moves the amendment. Let's hear from the floor leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'd ask the body to reject this amendment. If you're curious as to, how many PINs, how many employees work for the Attorney General, how much money is being spent, that's in our budget. And you can just ask the subcommittee chair or look in the budget that we just passed. That information is in there. This amendment asks for reporting requirements related to criminal prosecutions. The bill in front of us has nothing to do with criminal prosecutions. The bill in front of us is exclusively civil. So this is drawn incorrectly. I appreciate the intent of the maker of the amendment, but I would just ask that the body reject the amendment.
On the amendment, let's hear from the minority whip.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'm really disappointed to hear the rejection of this amendment because it's pretty common sense. It's simply asking for a report. We're going to, with this bill, will expand the Attorney General's power immensely. And there's no question that no matter what the fiscal note says, it's going to require more manpower and staffing, or it's certainly going to require manpower and staffing be diverted from other projects. I'm old enough and have been here long enough to remember that when we passed, this Senate passed an expansion of the previous Attorney General's power to sue former President, at that time current President, Donald Trump. This body devoted $1 million, that word's getting thrown around a lot, $1 million, even though at the time, and I think still, the Attorney General had vacant pens, vacant positions available. They said, nope, we got to have more pens and more money. And so after a year of that, my friend here, my counterpart, the minority leader, who at that time was the minority whip, and our colleague right behind him, who was the minority leader at the time, wrote a letter asking for a complete breakdown of what had been spent, what had been allocated, and what cases had resulted from it. Never got an answer. Never. To this day, we've never gotten an answer for where that $1 million went to sue Donald Trump so that politicians could get on TV and say they were suing Donald Trump. Nothing ever came of those cases. There was talk. They had cases about the Russia hoax. They had cases about emoluments clauses that nothing ever came from it. But we have no idea what money was expended. So here we have this. This is going to happen again. And all we're asking for in this amendment, for the taxpayers of Maryland and for people who want to know what's going on, heck, for people who think this is a good idea, this would give us a report that would simply say, what the number of attorneys and staff assigned to represent the state on behalf of the Attorney General, and the anticipated number of future attorneys and staffing that would be needed. I think it's an eminently reasonable amendment, Mr. President. I would ask for a roll call vote on it, and I would just ask the body for, it's not a trick. It's not a trick. It's asking for a report on how taxpayer money is being spent in a dramatic expansion of the power of the Attorney General, which we continue to do ever since this last 2 sessions. There's just been like more and more bills that say, hey, let's give the Attorney General power to do this, to do that. This is a dramatic expansion of his legal power to file civil lawsuits. So I think a report is more than appropriate.
All right, on the amendment, any further discussion? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President?
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote, explain their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. With 32 votes in the negative, Senator's amendment fails. Are there further amendments to the bill or its title? Seeing none, Senate Bill 488 is hereby ordered printed for third reading. All right. For a record, tonight we got through, without any consent calendars, 111 bills. That's a record. It's pretty good. Can we actually, and if we could give a round of applause to our wonderful Secretary of the Senate's office, who just rocks and rolls. So thank you all. Thank you all. We still have a long day tomorrow, but they are incredible. Agreed. Tirelessly plugging away. And if we could, give a round of applause as well to the Amendment Office. Thank you to the Amendment Office who just pounded away. They've been rushing things right and left. We have done a phenomenal bit of work. We are in tomorrow. We may have to have a double session, but I think it's pretty safe to say, assuming nothing goes totally haywire, that we'll be able to get out of here not too late. So, and if we can, that penciled in Saturday may drop. So, we'll see. Let's see, Senator from the 42nd District. Oh, okay. All right. Yes, Senator from Prince George's.
Thank you, Mr. President. We forgot to thank our rising stars, our pages.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, well, we can always thank
For
them,
the
of
work
course.
they did tonight.
It was wonderful. It was wonderful. Thank you. And thankfully, they will be back with us tomorrow. Tomorrow, excellent. It's great. Yes, yes. Okay. All right. Any announcements? Any announcements? Committee announcements? Yes, Chair of Finance.
Mr. President, what time are we coming in tomorrow?
I think 11 would be good.
Finance will meet for hopefully a final voting session at 9:30.
9:30. For the year, final vote? No, just kidding.
Final voting of Senate bills.
There we go. They're very good. All right, Chair of Education, Energy, and the Environment.
Thank you, Mr. President. Triple E will meet at 10 a.m. for a relatively short voting session.
10 a.m. for Triple E. Budget and Tax.
Thank you, Mr. President. We will also meet at 10 a.m.
10 a.m. And Judicial Proceedings.
Thank you, Mr. President. The Judicial Proceedings Committee will meet at 9 a.m. tomorrow morning.
9 a.m. All right, 9 a.m. All right, that means not much fun for the Irish American Caucus. Bright and early, 9 a.m. All right, any other announcements? Any other announcements? If not, let's do a quorum call.
Mr. President?
Has everyone recorded their presence? If so, the clerk will take the call. With 44 members in the chamber and a quorum being present, the Senate of Maryland remains in session. Chair recognizes the Majority Leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move the Senate of Maryland stand adjourned until Friday, March 15th at 11 a.m.
Without objection, so ordered. Have a safe night. See you tomorrow.